Good afternoon. We are here for the Historic Preservation Commission regular meeting on Thursday, July 9th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in the Ojai City Hall Council chambers. I'd like to have a roll call, please.
Chair McCatton.
Here.
Vice Chair Sims.
Here.
Commissioners Neeson.
Here.
Commissioner Akins.
Here.
Commissioner Walker.
Here.
Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Basasha.
Here.
Great. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, as we approve the agenda next, does anybody have any changes to the agenda? Are we good? Okay. So we go to public communication. So public communication is the time set aside during the meeting for members of the public to address the legislative body on items of city business other than scheduled agenda items. Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by members of the legislative body and will generally be referred to staff and or placed on a subsequent agenda. Under state law, other than for emergency items, no action can be taken. Do we have any public comment that's not related to what's on our agenda tonight? No? Okay, we'll close public comment and we'll go to museum report.
I'm sorry, if I could interject real quick. I'd like to introduce the attorney that's going to be sitting with us tonight. He's actually online, and his name is Cody Parker. Hi, Cody.
Hello. Hi, commissioners.
Hello.
My name's Cody Parker. I'm an associate with Alshire and Winder, and I'm actually your deputy city attorney as well. It's nice to virtually meet everyone tonight.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you, Cody.
Now, the museum report.
Okay. I needed just that amount of time to find it. Thank you all. From the museum, our Chumash interpretive garden looks better than ever, thanks to Julie Tumamite Stensley, Lanny Coffer, and Severo Laura. There is new signage, and it's featured on our website with photos and info about how the Chumash used each plant, and also QR codes. Got to have the QR codes that will just, open up all this information. So there's a QR code for each plant. Another month of Ojai Mystique exhibit, one that we're doing now with internationally known artists that come here to the Ojai Valley and paint landscapes from what they see. I think I mentioned this before, that they now have a nice map that's there that in case you can't figure out where it's at, you can go to the map. So that exhibit, Ojai Mystique, is ending August 9th. And we do have a fabulous exhibit that's being geared up for the end of to close out the year, and every one of us will want to be there. Truly. Love letters from 100 plus years ago on the people who lived here when it first started. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. And now we go to our consent calendar. We have our item number 1, which is our minutes. Does anybody have any changes to make? Yes.
Yes, on the back of the first page under item 3, under Commissioner Walker explained about CEQA. I was giving a report on that. And that last sentence in that paragraph says properties do not need to be studied further if owner does not want to do so. And it's a little more complicated than that. So I feel like that summary might give a false impression. So I'm just wondering if we could get rid of that sentence. I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, interesting.
I was just reading the rest of the paragraph real quick.
I think
I think just, yes, I'm sorry, I was gonna say, we just
the
scratched that.
intention of that was that if a person, let's see, that we were talking about the survey, and the point of the survey is just to identify places that are potentially historic, and that it doesn't require the owner to do anything at that point unless their property comes before the city for a remodel or a demolition. And in that case, but it's complicated because it would depend on what they were doing and a whole bunch of other factors. So I just feel like that last sentence shouldn't be there.
I think that the stating what the CEQA process is for was really the intent, and yeah, we'll scratch that last sentence.
I think in order to explain that sentence, you'd have to write a whole other paragraph.
Right,
so-
right, which isn't the intention of the minutes these days, so, okay, perfect.
If you want to understand it, watch that item, because
Watch
Craig
the
does a
minutes.
really good job of explaining something that's pretty complicated. So, very simply, that's the advantage of having a school teacher on our
I would
commission.
move approval
Okay, we have one, do we have a
with
second?
that change.
With that change.
I'll second.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Neeson,
Here.
Akins,
Yes.
Yes.
Sims,
Yes.
McCatton,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Basasha.
Abstain.
Okay, now we're on to number 2. This is our, sorry, is this, we did it a different time, or is it really a whole year since we've done this? It seems like we just,
Well, we gave the awards out in January.
Yeah, I think everything was 1 month late last year, but this is the time that we start the
we
process.
discuss it.
Because
Okay.
it takes a couple months to get it, done.
Do you
Get
have
it
a-
done.
Do you have a staff report?
Yes, so this topic, item number 2, is the annual historic preservation awards for 2026. I'm sorry, there's a bug. Sorry. So each year, the commission identifies individuals, organizations, or projects that should be recognized for the annual Historic Preservation Award, and the annual award honors those who have made a significant contribution to the historic preservation or restoration of Ojai's unique historic and cultural heritage. The award may be upgraded to a lifetime achievement status in the case of an individual who has made outstanding long-term contributions. The goal is to grant the award at a city council meeting in December. That's why we're starting now. A copy of the annual award criteria and procedure is attachment A, which starts on would be the next sheet in your packet. Staff recommended that the commission identify potential recipients to allow adequate time for the commission to gather information for the preparation of the biographies that are prepared for each individual. It's anticipated that at the next meeting, that would be in August, the commission would nominate recipients and request staff to bring back to the September meeting a resolution making a recommendation to the city council to ratify its decision. The city council needs to ratify the recommendation in the October or November meeting in order to present the award in December. So staff is requesting that the commission identify 1 or more candidates for the 2026 award. And there's a table on the opposite side here that's been provided as a guide for your selection. I'm thinking that all of the commissioners here maybe were here last year for this. No, we have one that was not. So the criteria is on page 1 of 1 of attachment A, and then page 1 of 7, attachment B, has previous awardees. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to you to start your discussion.
Thank you. So, would anybody like to discuss anyone that they have been thinking about?
I would actually.
Yes.
So we have a wonderful executive director for the Ojai Valley Museum who judiciously has cared for what I've always said as the heart and soul of the Ojai Valley, with all of the keepsakes that multiple peoples have done, and always finds a creative way to put it out where people can see it, and where people can read it, where people can ask questions, and she's done that now for 11 years, and I think she's done a very fine job. So I would like to recognize her on an annual award for that.
Okay.
Wendy Barker? Sorry.
Anyone else?
Yes, I'd like to consider Drew Mashburn, who has written numerous articles about Ojai history, a lot of them through the lens of his own childhood. And he hasn't been doing that presently, but he did it over a period of, 2 to 4 years, just a few years ago, through the Ojai Valley Museum. So I can't believe he's been missed up to this point, but I would like to nominate him.
Mara, could we get the criteria as well?
Oh. So,
Sure, well,
so we look at this and you'll say like 1, 5, 4. So do you know
Right.
which ones would be for Drew?
so I was thinking,
Well, I wasn't prepared to name that off, but
so Commissioner
I'll be a-
Basasha,
4?
just for all of the commissioners, I was thinking about that actually when I started the presentation for this item, that if you didn't thoroughly read your packet before tonight, then you might not be prepared to do this evening. In which case, if somebody's nominated tonight, you're going to go back, and for the next meeting, you're going to come back with a paragraph, it's basically a biography for this person, and at that time, if you don't have it this evening, at that time, you'll need to go through this criteria, and you'll have to figure out at which criteria do they qualify under. If they don't, then then you don't have a person. But it's okay if you don't have the criteria this evening. You'll need to bring it back with your biography at the next meeting.
Okay.
So that's what you'll be following through with after this meeting, is coming back next meeting with a biography.
okay. Well, I put a bunch of research into his biography, so I'd say number 4.
Okay. And for
For
you?
the next one? Okay, so for Wendy Barker, who we snicked out of down south after 16 years. Number 1, preservation of historic resources through conservation and/or restoration of a historic building site, more through the conservation. Item number 3, interpretation of historic properties, as seen often on the displays. Number 4, historical research. You're going to love the closing exhibit for this year. Talk about historic research. Design and planning efforts to preserve historic properties. We have Wendy working with Roger, always a great combo, and grassroots organizational efforts in historic preservation. That one may be a reach, so I'm okay with Xing that out. So 1, 3, 4, and 5.
Does anyone have anyone else? Yes.
I'd like to put forward Brady Hahn, who did an excellent exhibit at the Ojai Valley Museum on the women of the Ojai Valley. She did quite a bit of research. She didn't necessarily pick the obvious choices like Josephine Pierpont or Annie Besant or people like that, but more of a different level of woman who made a contribution over the years and put together a great exhibit. So Brady Hahn, I would say a 4. And then I also would put forward Jim and Rob's, because every time I go in there, I love seeing all the photographs that they've decorated their walls with. I always learn something new, and I think, how can we get a copy of that, for the museum? So they've really done a lot of, and I think all the people that come in and see that sit there and eat, they get a real immersion in Ojai history. And then for a lifetime, I know he was chosen as a annual award in 2013, but Brett Bradigan has over the years contributed so much in the area of Ojai history through the various articles, many of them that he's written himself about Ojai and its history. So I would suggest possibly him as a 4 as well. And Jim and Rob's would be a 4.
Okay. A good list there. Anyone want to add anything to that? Okay.
So what the commission will do then is write up their biographies, and if the biographies could be to staff, we'll send out an email, give you a date, please, a deadline to get them to us so they can get into the next packet. And so everyone will have an opportunity to review it, and then you'll discuss it at the next meeting. And sometimes there's one, and sometimes there's more, and you'll vote on each of them.
So at the next meeting, we could narrow it down to 1 or 2.
Exactly. And so we have one, it sounds like we have one lifetime, and for historic preservation awards, but one lifetime.
5?
There are 5?
I think so. It's Wendy, Drew, Brady, and Jim and Rob's. No, you're right. It's 4.
Wendy, Drew.
Okay.
Uh,
Would you please, Commissioner Walker, spell the last name of Brett, I think you said?
Oh, Bradigan, I believe. Is that right?
Bradigan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I think his first name just has 1 T. Is that correct?
So since you are bringing forth 3, I can do Jim and Rob's if you'd like me to.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll do Brady and Brett.
And then Brian, you'll do Wendy, and you'll do Drew? Yes. Okay.
And I will contact you privately about Jim and Rob's, because this information is not completely accurate.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Great.
Okay.
We're going to go on to item number 3. We don't need to do anything else with that, right? Okay. Item number 3 is the Nordhoff Grammar School, maintenance and protections of historic landmark number 24. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, so the recommendation, which I'll give before the discussion, is after the staff presentation, that the commission discuss the maintenance, preservation, and protections the city can engage in for landmark number 24. That's for the Nordhoff Grammar School, located at 414 East Ojai Avenue. So Vice Chair Sims requested this item be added to the agenda, and Commissioners Akins and Moore seconded that request. This was at the last meeting. And provided here in your staff packet, we have City Council Resolution number 1750, and the resolution includes objects of record and states that any proposed changes, additions, renovations, or alterations to the features shall be subject to the Secretary of the Interior standards regarding alteration to historic structures, and will also require a work permit. Any alteration to the exterior of the original Nordhoff Grammar School's Arcade Grammar School building, specifically the portion facing Ojai Avenue, the lawn area in front of the Arcaded Grammar School building facing Ojai Avenue, and the Chaparral Auditorium along Ojai Avenue, including doors, windows, roofs, and exterior walls, and any alteration of the character-defining elements described in this resolution that exist in these 3 designated portions of the property would require a work permit by a review and consideration of a work permit by the Historic Preservation Commission. Furthermore, pursuant to the Municipal Code, Section 4822, which is the duty to keep in good condition, the owner or occupant, or any other person that's in charge of a landmark or contributing structure within a district shall keep in good condition all of the exterior portions of such a landmark or contributing structure within the district. The code assigns the duty of enforcing this section of the code to the building official and/or the code enforcement officer. And so your packet goes on, the staff report is a little bit more detailed than my presentation, and you have the resolution in your packet along with other documentation regarding the school. And I'll open it up to you for discussion, and of course I'm available for questions.
Do we have any questions for staff before I open up to public comment? Yes.
Yes, the code actually says too that any work that's being done on a landmark or on a landmark property, on a building on a landmark property, needs to get a work permit. Isn't that correct? So it's not just the landmark itself, but if it's on a parcel that contains a landmark, it also needs to get a work permit, because that could influence or affect the landmark itself.
So the language that's right here was taken directly from the code, like literally verbatim.
What is the number on that? Do you know?
We have the duty to keep in good condition is 4822,
Okay.
and penalties are in 4824. Let's see. I think so specifically the question was maintenance and protection of this particular landmark. And so this is what I've provided as a response to you. As far as other code sections, I don't have the code in front of me right now.
Yeah, I was just going to quote the section of code says that
Could you
approval of
state
a
the
major.
code? Could you state
pardon
the
me?
code? Can you state the code?
Section.
It's under major and minor work permits, but I don't have the number here.
It's 4-8 on .20.
It says
It's-
approval of a major work permit by the Historic Preservation Commission or the Council on Appeal shall be required before any of the following actions may be undertaken for a landmark property or historic district.
So that would be a landmark or landmark property.
No, it says a landmark property. Yes, so it's,
So sometimes
or
there's
it's
a
all,
landmark.
it's all of those.
Okay. Okay, well, sometimes there's landmark property and sometimes there's a landmark building, and it's usually specific in the resolution for that particular landmark.
Yeah, no, I think it's the landmark, any parcel,
Okay.
and that's also true for the section on the demolition by neglect. It says that any building on a parcel that contains the landmark. So the law is inclusive of other buildings that are on the parcel because they're part of the landmark property.
And part of your packet also includes the specific resolution for this property and says specifically what needs to get a work permit. And with that, I'm going to leave it up to have your discussion regarding the item.
Well,
Commissioner-
possibly we could get the attorney to look it up and give us an answer.
So Commissioner Akins, right now we're doing questions to the staff.
Right.
Okay.
So again, we have an attorney here, but I
You're
guess,
free to address the attorney.
I guess my question is, it seems that by Commissioner Walker's comments that he is going beyond and diverting from the item, and the item on the agenda was the proper keep of a current landmark that's established. Now, as for the permit, I have questions on whether that permit is in place when the property is not owned by the city. As in this case, it's owned by the school district, who has its own rights that go with being a school district property and its own requirements for doing any kind of permit that we're talking about they may initiate in order to do. So I know I've got a former council member that's scratching his nose that may have an answer for that. But again, it seems like, and I was around for every meeting when we first started this landmarking, and so I'm a little sensitive to the essentially property rights and controls and guidance that go along with that. And then also, again, I think we're straying far beyond what we're supposed to be discussing at this time.
Do you have a question to him, or you just wanted to?
Yeah, my question is, are we straying far along than where we should be according to what the agenda says tonight?
I don't think so. The agenda says maintenance and protection of historic landmark number 24, the Nordhoff Grammar School. Certain work would require a permit. So I think discussing permit criteria is within the scope of the agenda item.
Thank you.
And that takes into account the rights that are inherent in this being a public school property that's controlled by the state of California and their probably the Department of Education and their own guidelines that go with school properties that are school properties rather than made available, as though they were giving up that property, giving up their rights.
Yes, considering that the property owner would be the school district and or the state of California, then yes, it's fine to be talking about the property owner's rights in this instance.
So Cody, this is for you, but as well as the commission. The resolution speaks specifically to what requires a work permit for this particular landmark.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what's happening is we have a resolution that states what requires a work permit for this landmark, and then we have a code that's stating that a work permit would be required for landmark properties, thus and such. And so does the resolution for this particular property hone in and specify what requires a work permit for this particular property?
Looking at the resolution now.
Thank you.
Can I ask that we start to have a discussion, and then we'll see if it goes there, and you could always rein us in and stop us if you think we're crossing lines.
I think we should narrow it from the beginning. I have another question for staff too when we have a moment.
So I will just say, though, that staff's understanding is that we follow the resolution, and the resolution is specific as to what requires a work permit. And it has to do with 3 different areas of the school property. And Attachment A, page 3 of 15, Section 1, states what it is that has been designated as such. And since this came up right at the beginning of the discussion as a question, it's okay with me if the commission moves on to start discussing it, except it may need to be answered.
Yeah, I just, I don't know if it's going to be something that takes over the conversation. If it does, then we can stop and we can ask for assistance, but it may not. And I don't think we know where it's going to head yet. So, maybe we can see the direction it goes first, if that's okay.
Staff is okay with that?
Okay.
Again, I have a
does
question
appear-
sorry.
It does appear the resolution does hone in on the specific areas of the grammar school that require a work permit. So if there was work happening at the school, perhaps not dealing with the characteristics or areas of the school that are protected, then it might not need a work permit. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Well, what we have is, we have an HRR that clearly states that the entire campus is historic and can be, there's state, national, I mean, the whole campus is for an outside organization that was hired by the city. The HRR states that it's all historic. We have one councilman who was on during that time, and we have Commissioner Akins, who was a commissioner at that time. And we know what happened is what the council chose to pick some of the buildings, but it wasn't like they were saying that the rest of the buildings weren't historic. This was just what they chose to landmark at that time in 2017. The idea was at some point in time they could come back and landmark the rest. So it is, the HRR talks about the entire property, so I don't want to be held back to not talk about the entire property if it comes up, because it's in the HRR. But it's not, I think that one thing I'd like to say, just getting started on this, is the whole reason why we wanted it on here is because we want to be of help and of service and of education and to the school district, to try and help, to try and see what's happening and see how we can assist, not to go down to the, it's like, call the sheriff, and I mean, that's not our intention. Our intention is what we can do to help. And so I think that as free as we can and not be as rigid would be helpful right now. Because, like I said, we're here to help. Okay?
My question to staff.
Sure.
Okay, so my question to the staff is, again, this is looking through this attachment and going to the sections which we also called out, 4-8.22, to keep in good condition. Okay, I agree with that. The only question I had on that, it says, under item B, it says it shall be the duty of the building official or code enforcement officer to enforce this section. Do we know if that's taking place at all? Now
So
we're in the past?
Is it taking place on this building right now?
Yes.
So we have very limited staff, okay? And we have historically been reactive as opposed to
Understood.
active. And we are transitioning from being reactive to proactive. With that, we do not have the staff to go and individually look at buildings and to see if they are in disrepair or need repair. So since we are in transition, but even if we weren't in transition, even if we were proactive, if we weren't to see something, if we were alerted through my Ojai, then we would have, our code compliance officer would have to go out to a site to see what was happening. So does that answer your question?
It does answer my question. However,
And so are we actively looking at this site right now? No.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I know on a project within a historic district, that's the Taramina district, that I and our church in the neighborhood had cleaned a location, a house within that historic district, and that was where I met Max, the
Okay,
code enforcement person, when he first came on board. So
I'm just doing this because I want to make sure we stay on topic. So yes, we have active code compliance, absolutely. I'm the supervisor. But, however, again, we are transitioning from being reactive to proactive. But even if we were 100% proactive, we don't have the staff to go out looking at historic buildings at this time.
okay, I understand what you're saying. So basically, you're saying that the code is here,
The
but
code
we
is
don't
here.
have enough people to do the code.
Correct.
Staff.
However, we are still reactive, and if we had somebody alerting us through my Ojai to something going on a landmark property, we would address it.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay. I love the word alerting, because my next question is, and I know what the answer is, because when I saw this last Thursday, I knew who I was going to talk to as quick as I could. So I have actually talked to, I've talked physically to the superintendent of schools, Cheryl Knox. I saw her at the Brown Bag and informed her, well, she knew about this before I did. I also talked to Kevin Olson, who is the essentially the business person, and no one had informed the school that this item was coming before us in this meeting, let alone, and the other thing that I really find troublesome is section 4-8.24, enforcement and penalties, which maybe at the end of the discussion, or we'll get it on a future thing, is I think this should be struck, because sending someone, the city attorney, to institute any necessary legal proceedings,
Commissioner
chief of
Akins,
police.
that would be like way far down the road after
Yes.
working
True,
with somebody
true.
for probably years and assisting and holding hands and helping and
So-
cleaning. And so this needs to be in the code to protect the city. But that's something that's really far, far down the road. The commission asked for this item to be on the agenda tonight, so it's on the agenda tonight for you to discuss. And I just want to repeat, if somebody were to submit through my Ojai anything going on in the city, code compliance would have to go and check it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a struggle, because I have had many people over the years, and I've told them about my Ojai, and they've never heard of it. It's hard to engage people to get them to do that. I don't
So,
know, but even
It's
within
very available
us-
on our website, and if they call up the city, we actually walk people through it, or we do it for them.
Yeah,
The staff, we have got Sherry and Ida at the front counter 5 days a week, and if somebody calls in or comes in, they will put it into my Ojai for them.
yeah. I
So
do
they don't
think
even
that
have
people
to know
just
how to do it.
think they're supposed to come to the commissioners, and I think that we've all had,
Well, and,
yeah,
yeah,
people
so
come to us. So,
talking to me, it has to go through the right channels in order to get
Exactly.
onto the code compliance officer's desk.
yes,
So I've used my Ojai a few times, and recently I took a picture of the bush out here that's a very tall hedge, and I asked for it to be looked at and to be cut down to the level of the other hedges. And I don't know who looks at the my Ojai things, but my response was from the staff, I guess, to me, was that the building was unrecognizable and they didn't know where this was. So I have the picture.
I would love to talk to you about this after the meeting, and you can show me, you can either physically show me where it is or give me a picture. It's
All
not
right.
on
And
the
let's
agenda
try
tonight.
to-
It's also not on the agenda tonight, really, to talk about my Ojai. I just want to make sure that the commissioners, as well as the public who are listening tonight, that my Ojai is the way in.
Okay.
And it doesn't get ignored. If we can't, so, anyway, thank you,
Yes.
and please don't use cell phones at the meeting. You want to ask a question?
I would like to ask the attorney a question, please.
Yes.
As a commissioner, a public commissioner here, we are tasked with maintaining the properties, the landmarks in this city. This is what we're tasked with, protecting them, overseeing them. And I am wondering, as a commissioner, if we, as commissioners, don't have the right to ask the city to look into matters like this. Why do I have to go onto my Ojai and do this when I am a commissioner? And
So-
I've been asking for this for almost 2 years.
So I'm sorry, Cody.
Can you
So,
give, can
will-
I
will-
have an answer,
so,
please?
I'm sorry. The commission is not able to assign staff work. That has to go through council.
Okay, well, let me then ask you this question. This has been landmarked for many years. how do you determine what is important to go out and look at, or even what is important to the city? This is an important building. It's more important than some of the other things that you all as staff do. And I am wondering how, after so many years, nobody has bothered to look at any of this. So how do you prioritize what is
Please, if you
important?
have an issue with a historic building or anything in the city, including a hedge, please submit it to my Ojai.
Well, I need his answer to my question, because I don't think that that's
Sorry, Cody.
appropriate.
I'm going to agree with Maura on this one. The commission can assign work to staff.
I'm
and
not
code
asking them to
enforcement.
assign it, I'm asking them to maybe put it on an agenda or something. Why am I even here then? Why are we here if we have no power and no control over anything, and it goes to the city, and what are we good for? Can you answer that? We're tasked with the job, and we can't do our job unless we have help doing it. And if the help doesn't have time to do it, what are we supposed to do?
Like Maura was saying, code enforcement responds to various complaints. They can't go around checking everything. So it's important to make sure people know about my Ojai, like you're discussing. And the commission does have power. We were just talking about the permitting power the commission does have. So there are mechanisms things that the commission needs to hear, such as work permits, major work permits for landmarks.
The public comment.
Yeah. Can we go to public comment now? Is everybody okay with that? We already had it.
I've given my presentation, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wyrick? And do you have the timer?
Wow, deja vu. You know, I warms my heart to see a full complement of fully engaged commissioners on the Historic Preservation Commission again. Thank you for your service.
Mr. Wyrick, please state your name.
Bill Wyrick. Okay. Context I wanted to provide. This originated in a time when there was a fair amount of, let's just say, tension between the city of Ojai and the school district over the adaptive reuse to a commercial use, which was what was in people's minds. And there was an issue of what the appropriate partnership and jurisdictional balance was. There was an opinion there was an attempt by the school district at the time, a long time ago, not the current people, I want to emphasize, a much better relationship now, I believe, to go along with a change in the general plan to eliminate any city involvement or jurisdiction with the change to a commercial use of this building, including the possible complete demolition. And so the city did not go along with that, and then so there became, it turned out that we found out that legally it's the nature, the particular change in use and in the particular circumstances create more fluidity in terms of jurisdiction. It's not black and white. And then there's statutory changes about housing that have come down the pike and so on and so forth. So it's a degree of a fluidity. Well, what we did, and I was a proponent of it at the time, was this commission recommended the city funding, without the request of the ownership, an historic resources study. First time, I believe, ever that happened. Craig, you could correct me if I'm wrong. And that was very important precedent to set, I believe, because it set an historic record. And then that historic resources report made a couple of really good points. One, how historic the whole situation was, including a building that had been, a previous historic building that had been demolished for basically financial reasons to put in the Chaparral School to begin with, the extent to which the mission revival architecture was part of the whole effort at the time, the fact that there was a tower that was meant to complement the post office tower at the time architecturally, which turned out to have been neglected and deteriorated and had to be demolished. So there were a lot of reasons to say, well, why don't we do the historic resources report, and then that justified landmarking with the issue of jurisdiction, somewhat fluid, of course, between two public agencies. But that was the initiative that this historic commission took, recommended to council, and I was a proponent on council for funding the historic resources study, and and going ahead with the landmarking. And you're absolutely right, the historic resources study, in my 9 seconds left, justified everything. A portion was done for reasons of trying to work as well as we could at the time while preserving character of the city. So, thank you.
I have a question for you, Mr. Wyrick. Can you come back to the podium? Was it, in your recollection, was it the intention to eventually go back and look at the other buildings? Or?
Yes, the intention of the commission at the time, and certainly the intention was to review that, particularly depending on the future course of what happened with the development arrangements. And there certainly was a feeling that the entire U in particular was a unified architectural part of the character. But there was also sensitivity to what was going on with the situation with the school district, and said, well, at least it's important on the front edge. But that was basically, I don't think I'm misrepresenting at the time, but the frontage was important, a bit of a compromise to just do the frontage. There was a lot of tension at that time between the city council and the school board. So it was an attempt to be accommodating to the nature of the times.
Thank you.
I think that's accurate.
Does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Robert? No? We're good? Thank you. Kathy Smith?
A lot to break down. My name is Kathy Smith.
Hello.
I'm currently a school district trustee. At the time, in 2015, when this originally came before the Historic Preservation Commission and the City Council, I was an employee. I don't recall a commercial act causing this to come before the HPC in 2015. I remember subsequent commercial acts, thankfully, are no longer viable. However, from the architect's report on page 33, speaking of the historic value of the property, the forensic historic expert architect said, however, it does not retain significant integrity, historical resources to be eligible for the California Register or the National Register. Conversely, the Chaparral Auditorium as an individual building qualifies for those registers. So even the forensic person did not see the viability of the entire property. And I do think the council took that into consideration when they made their decision. And what I recall as a negotiated conversations between the two organizations, that they came up with the front arcade area, the auditorium. We actually added the superintendent's building, which was not part of that first draft, because it is also on the Ojai Avenue landscape. And that has always been the focus. We actually, in my opinion, generously included the lawn. I don't know when a lawn has ever been designated as historic, but we agreed to it because we care about the property that has been entrusted to the school district since 1895. I can't say that more strongly. On a personal note, I do have to say how disrespectful I thought this group was last meetings as I watched them, and people bantered around the term demolition by neglect. That is absolutely not the intent of this school district. We value that property. One last, if I may, because it refers to your very code, section 4-823. Let's not forget the last sentence that says, provisions of this chapter, unless regulations are preempted by state and federal law, not only do I believe government code and ed code are more applicable to this property than the city's ordinance. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do we have anybody online?
No.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment. Did you have anything you wanted to say? You? Yeah. Oh, sure, yeah. Okay.
Thank you for having me speak. Hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn. I think it would be probably just a good objective to maybe, if we're not able to accomplish the goal
Oh, I'm sorry,
inside the school.
Can you just say your name?
I'm sorry. My name is Alan Hoyt-Melhoff.
Thank you.
Maybe we can objectively try to find other agendas to utilize the beautification of the city and maybe not spend so much time on stuff that we can't accomplish. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment, and I'm going to open it up to discussion. I do want to say that I did meet yesterday with the superintendent and Dr. Cheryl Knox, and I did apologize that I really need to have better communication with her, having it sneak up on her board, and her trustees, and communication is everything, and I think that is one of the reasons why we wanted this on here. It's not adversarial. We're not, I mean, like we talk about the .24 where it's enforcement and penalties. We're not trying to do anything except see a problem and see as a body how we can help. And that's what we talked about. Dr. Knox was very open to trying to see if there was any grants, talked about what they're planning on doing as far as upkeep and far as renting part of the building out and using those funds to help with the upkeep of the building. She said pretty much the same thing that you did as far as wanting to be good stewards to not just this building, but all the buildings within the school district that are all aging, and explaining that, of course, the school district is strapped for money, and that the bond money is going to always go to where students are, and so that leaves this building to kind of need help. And so that's where I'm hoping the city comes in, and we can come in and come up with solutions, not causing any sort of problem. It's a small town, and I think that you've educated all of our children, and we want to see a beautiful campus for whatever it becomes. Adaptive reuse is everything with preservation, so we don't want it just to sit there. We want it to become something that the city can enjoy and love for the next generations that you're now educating. So please know that when we're talking, if we seem frustrated or everything, it's just we want to come up with solutions, and we want to be free to talk about any ideas that we have. And Dr. Knox did say that her door is always open, and to any of us that want to have any questions and want to talk to her. So I think that the most important thing is keeping communication open and seeing what we can do. So if anybody wants to go first.
Chair, if I could piggyback on what you just said. So the chair spoke with the superintendent. I had talked with the chair a couple days ago, and I spoke with Kevin Olson, who has got this really long title because he does so many things. So we'll just call him the deputy superintendent. There we go. And I talked to him, he's been there about 2 years on the board. I think that's how long I've seen him there. He talked, also right close to me was Mayor Andy. So I talked to Kevin. Kevin said they had provided a master ground lease to the city as a proposal in trying to find things that they can work on the city on. He pointed out, and I know this again from and I mentioned this before, going to a play that was in the cafeteria with a fabulous set. He said that it's the community that's now using that property. It's not the school that's using that property. He suggested the other thing is, and he didn't say this tongue in cheek or, insincere in any way, but he realizes, I kind of added the twist to it. This is a city landmark. If by any chance with his hat in his hand, the city would like to put some funds towards that, he would appreciate it. Currently, they're in the process of bidding painters in order to look at the building and make some adjustments to it. So I just wanted to kind of jump on with the chair and talk about the two key people administrative people there at the school district. So thank you, Chair. I appreciate you talking to Cheryl, and I really enjoyed talking with Kevin. Thank you.
So I have a question to staff. One of the things that was brought up, because they don't feel like they have the support for the bond, was having maybe the city kind of doing a museum sort of thing, what you did with the Thomas Aquinas building, where the city, they leased it and then the city does the upkeep of it. Is that something that that if this body feels that is a good direction to go, we could suggest to council as something that we'd like it to be thought of?
The commission can certainly address the council with any ideas that they have. I mean, it's,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, I
Commissioner
think
Wong.
that the bottom line for me is that this is a historic building. It was shown to be historic in the report. The kindergarten building was also found eligible for the state register, as well as the cafetorium. But the rest of it was found to be eligible as a city landmark. The whole buildings, and it was brought to the Historic Preservation Commission for vetting. I wasn't on the commission at that time, but they vetted it and they passed along a recommendation that they found that the whole buildings, the whole courtyard buildings that are historic were eligible and should be landmarked. The city, for whatever reason, decided to limit that to the buildings along the front. But I believe the statement was made at the time that they held open the option to come back and revisit the whole building. I think we all want the same thing. I think the community wants the same thing. I believe that maybe some of the people that weren't so sure about the housing development were just a little taken aback by the fact that so much of that school was going to be demolished in order to build those condos, those $1 million condos downtown. And it looked to me like the Maynard Linden kindergarten building was going to be one of those that would be demolished. So I'm all in favor of trying to work on some kind of joint power agreement or something where the city can work with the school district. And the city, I think, gets a public benefit. It's not a gift of public funds, because having those buildings landmarked is a public interest. It's something that people want in Ojai, I believe, is to have those buildings repurposed and utilized for offices or stores or artists' studios or whatever. I believe there's a lot of interest in using those, and the city already has an agreement with the school district over the skate park, and also the community uses the theater and also uses the courtyard for their Thursday farmers market. So I believe there's already the beginning of that, and if the city could work, it says right in our functions and powers that in order to protect buildings, we can actually present a recommendation that the city buy the building, and the city has bought several historic buildings. I'm not saying we should buy the school district, but they bought the Catholic chapel and they renovated that and they repurposed it as the museum. They bought and owned the arcade that was owned by all the merchants along Ojai Avenue, and the city took that over and they preserved it. There's many other historic buildings that the city has stepped in to keep for the benefit of the people of Ojai. And I think this is one that is just a nice extension of Ojai Avenue that would extend the area over into that area. So I would be in favor of anything that would help to preserve those buildings. And if we can recommend to the city that they buy the property, I think we can certainly recommend to them that we form some kind of a joint power arrangement so that the city could help to preserve the buildings. You know, if we're grumbling about how the district is doing it, maybe we should step in and help with that process. So I would be in favor of something along that line.
Anyone else?
I'm just still shocked because this is a beautiful set of buildings. It was. You look at the pictures here in the report. These are pictures from 2017. You look at the place now, and it is terrible. It is terrible what has happened to it. And as it continues to fall apart, pretty soon, it's not going to be able to be put back together. And I object to not being able to say this is demolition by neglect, because if you look at the pictures, that is exactly what is happening. And it doesn't take long. Once things start to fall apart and they get wet inside and other things happen, things go quickly. These pictures were taken in 2017. It is now 2026, and there's a huge difference in how the building looked then and how it looks now. And I feel that it is important that this city pay attention to it. I think it is important that we do something, as Craig, said. I mean, Rick, can you talk to, as you are a preservation contractor, you do this for a living. Can you talk about what it takes to either put it back together or let it completely fall apart? I mean, even the lawn looks terrible. There's trash all over. I mean, it's terrible. And I don't understand why a little bit of money can't be put into this. You spend money on a new pool, on a whole stadium, the city's given money. And all that money that went into Matilaha, that was bond money, there's nobody now down in Ojai at the district. Nobody's going in there paying attention to any of it. If people were paying attention to it, it wouldn't look the way it does. And it's important. It's very important, or we're going to lose it. And I'm just talking about the buildings right there in front. I won't even go into the rest of it. Just the buildings that are a city landmark. I don't care whether they qualify for state or national. The city has determined that these are important. And our city staff needs to take action. And they need to know how important it is, since we feel it's important. I'm sorry that they don't have enough staff to do this. But I really still object to the fact that I personally have to go onto some city website to, everybody drives by. They don't see this. I see it. So those are my comments. I don't know what we can do about it. I had a whole suggestion, but obviously they have no staff, so nobody's going to do anything.
So even if our staff went down and said, this is happening, fix it. If the school district, the bond money that's left is not a lot, and it's allocated for buildings that students are in to keep the students safe. So if there's no money, it's not really the hardship, because that doesn't really apply. But if there's no money to do it, like they thought that maybe they were going to have the bond support, and they didn't. And so maybe over the time with what's happening to the buildings was in talks for a lot of different projects. And during those projects, it's like, well, let's not put any money here, because when the developer comes in, when things start being discussed and how it's going to be updated, it could be rehabilitated at that point. But now that that had not happened, these buildings have gone into a neglect. Even if I don't believe that there's bad intention. It's the course of what happened. So what I want to do is try to help them figure out a way out of this so they can have money. Whether I know that you and I both have taken classes that have been about adaptive use, specifically of schools, and I know that there's money out there. I know that there is, whether it comes from a grant or it comes from the city, there has to be a way that we can solve this together, because if there's not money that they are, whether it's willing or if it's, just that the money needs to go someplace else, then let's try to find ways to help and find resources. And that's something that Dr. Knox was like, very open to any ideas that we have and to try and help, because we can see the path of all the different projects, the ideas, the hotel, and then the student housing, and all of these things that have happened. And you could see why you wouldn't want to put money into a building that is going to be refurbished and rehabilitated any moment. And then when all that fell through, now you can see the result of what happened. But we need to get...
You still have to maintain a property. I mean, your own home. You have to put money into that home every year to keep it up. If you don't, it's going to fall apart.
Yeah,
and that's what's happening.
We can see what's, it's crumbling on the bottom. Is that stucco? Is that structural? I mean, did you take a look at it? Is it something?
Yes, I looked at it. In fact, I walk through many of the different schools throughout the week, walking my dogs, and I went to most of them, including this campus in question, which I call Ojai Elementary, because that's what it was called when I went there. So I've kept my eye on that campus for a while before I was on the HPC, and when the school district still had their offices there. And a lot of that damage that's there now, like big holes in the stucco, like about this big, showing the structure of the building underneath it, and all the ground squirrel holes riven underneath the building, and all the unpainted windows, which I would say possibly go back around 50 years, that they have not been painted, which has caused warpage to the sills. And there's a lot of sort of cosmetic damage, which is really neither here nor there, but there's a lot of cracking in the building. And so a lot of this has been going on for a long time. And I don't really understand why it hasn't been fixed and maintained. It's beyond me. However, the Chaparral Auditorium was rehabilitated on the outside some years ago. Even the tile on the seats in front, which were, I believe, damaged by skateboarders. And the school district did a beautiful job. And I think it's kind of funny that the district office just let itself go. I mean, this was where the superintendent, not the current one, was housed, and the offices and so on, which have now moved to the Matilaha campus, which is in great shape. The Nordhoff campus is constantly worked on and shiny and in great shape. But this one, as Commissioner Sims said, has fallen down on its maintenance. And when a building falls down on its maintenance, it becomes more expensive to take care of. And given that the schools are actually our schools, we pay for them with our taxes, and we vote for them in support in bond issues. It is a puzzlement to me, and I'm glad to get this guidance from the principal planner about how to move forward with getting this maintenance done, possibly. So I appreciate that. So that's what I have to say about it. I walked around the entire, all the buildings out there except the maintenance buildings and the part that you can't get to because it's locked with a gate, where I went to first and second grade, which is backs up to the kindergarten where I also went. And when I went to Ojai Elementary, it was only like 30 years old.
Wow.
And it was, I guess, in pretty good shape. I didn't really take much note of it, but it seemed like it was back then. But it has fallen, it's falling into disrepair, that's for sure.
So do you see it as maintenance, or do you see it as structural?
Well, it's hard to comment on structural. On the facade, which faces west, which has all these classrooms, not too many years ago, a big valley oak was taken down in that area. It's the part that comes off the bottom L of where the district offices were before it runs north-south and faces west. There's a lot of cracking in those. Now, that could be superficial, or it could be something more serious, and there are ground squirrel holes underneath there. I don't know if they're live, but there's holes under there. Also, the windows in that facade, the putty is all cracked, so moisture seeps into there and helps rust the steel windows, which are pretty amazing windows, although probably not up to date with energy codes and so on. But anyway, I walked around the entire circumference of the campus, and I was actually kind of shocked by the condition of the school.
Yeah, I guess many things happen to get us where we are right now, and get that landmark, what it looks like. And I just personally, just because because we need to work together, I don't want to look back, I just want to look forward. So it's like, okay, there's many reasons of why this happened, and there's many fingers to point and all that kind of thing, but I just want to move forward. So moving forward,
my Ojai is beckoning me. That's moving forward, right?
I guess, but that's just saying, oh, take a look at it. But there's got to be, I mean, even the old-fashioned things, I mean, I know that I've seen cities put up, those posts that are like raising funds, and not something that's outside of bonds, but just doing fundraising, trying to get money, like getting the city involved, trying to, get the city excited about, and the residents about saving this building, and about trying to see, getting estimates on what it would cost to redo it, and trying to get funds raised. I mean, if we're not going to get money, blood from a turnip sort of thing, if we can't get it from the people who own it, then it's still publicly, it's a public building that is taxpayer funded, that is bonded and everything on my, every year on my property taxes. So we do have, it is collectively the city of Ojai's building. So is there things that we can think outside the box to try to, looking for grants, looking for things, talking to the city, how are we going to get it fixed? Okay, because it's not. And I mean, I know that talking to Dr. Knox, they do have plans to work on some of the Spanish tile roof. They are looking into painting. They're, I'm sure it's going to come through Lucas when the time comes when they figure out what they're going to do. But they are wanting to do what they can afford to do. But even with painting, I think having it like at that whole bottom where it's chipping from, like the stucco's coming from, that probably needs to be repaired. I mean, there are things that I don't know. I just wanted to try to think outside the box and be proactive to seeing what we can do to I mean, we can yell and scream and cry about how we want, funds to go to this campus, because it is something that it's been a part of our community for, 100 years. But if there's not allocated funds, if the trustees don't allocate funds to it because they have to decide where that money's gonna go, and it's gonna go to where students are, then what can we do? What can the city do? How can we help?
Well, I spent quite a while going on the internet and just searching for abandoned or surplus schools that had been repurposed. And there's dozens of them that come up all over California. There's one down in Oxnard that was turned into studio, Channel Islands, art. And they have this whole old elementary school that they've turned over to a nonprofit, and they have artist studios, galleries, and things in there. So there's a lot of possibilities, and the whole idea of doing a joint powers arrangement, that was something that I found that several communities had done to repurpose these schools that are historic. I mean, this architect that did that school, Roy C. Wilson, I think about 4 of his schools in Ventura County are landmarks and have been repurposed and reused. So I think there's a way to do it. We just have to go beneath the surface and see if we can find something that's a good fit for Ojai.
So if we wanted to bring this back at our next meeting, or maybe 2 meetings from now, and try to do some research, try to come up with ideas. Kathy, can you come to the podium? So, understanding that we want to be of help, can we reach out to you and maybe try to communicate with just getting a dialogue to see what we can do?
Communication is exactly what's been missing in this whole process. So I appreciate that Brian reached out to the superintendent after your agenda had already been published and after your previous agenda conversations. So it's really unfortunate. We wonder why people feel this friction between organizations, and I will tell you that's exactly why.
Well, let me tell you something. I don't know how you can be a trustee and look at that piece of property down there and not care about it. It just is beyond me how anybody on the school board can ignore something. It's not up to us. It's basically up to the city to enforce the landmark, but they can't because they don't have the resources, which I understand.
I will not address personal attacks.
It isn't a
but I
personal
will
attack.
have- it
I'm just saying
absolutely
it's
is.
all of you.
Can we just, let's
It
try.
absolutely is.
We're-
I will not dignify it even by a response. But of course, absolutely,
Okay.
conversations should occur. And yes, the reason that property, not only does state code require that funds from school districts be spent first on properties where students are engaged. That has always been our goal. And when we first came up with Measure J in 2014, we knew that the amount of money that we were seeking was well beyond 50% less than what was actually needed. We made the commitment to the community that those buildings would always be the buildings that were first served as those that were serving children. So that has always been the goal. There have been, since you brought up the point of the pictures in your architect's presentation, there have been significant hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on the district property since 2017 to do what you noticed, the tiles in the front of the auditorium, to resurface the parking lot. To resurface, you'll see the pictures in the back of that presentation. It's completely different. The maintenance yard, everything has been updated because we absolutely do care about that property. Thank you.
There's just no funding, and the
Correct.
funding that you have is allocated other places.
Correct.
So we need a dialogue to figure out how we can come up with ways to bring that building back to its pristine landmarking beauty that it is. And so you would be up for maybe having conversations and keeping dialogue open and hopefully.
Absolutely. I wish it started that way. And the agenda and the next item on your agenda did feel very offensive and did feel like those were the only solutions when a conversation could have preempted all of this, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, we're only going to look forward now.
Thank you. Me too.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I would like to just know that this is the first of many that we're talking about that this problem isn't going to go away, that we need to work with the city, work with our liaison on council, and try to come up with some ideas and then bring them to the next meeting or the meeting after that. And when we do, we will let everybody know we're going to do it before we do it. And yeah, I mean, this is just step one. Okay, yeah? Okay, so let's,
I think that would be great if I thought that there was a 2+2 committee with the city and the school district that was working on these issues, but apparently there hasn't been.
so I asked Dr. Knox, and she said there was a 2+2 for the the teacher housing, and they only met like once or twice. And then there was a 2x2 that our liaison was in that was about education, but there was never one that was about the actual campus and the landmarking. So, because I had said something about, can it be 2+2+1? And she's like, there's no 2+2. So that was how I found that out. So maybe that would be a good way to get going if we can get counsel and, just good communication. That's the main thing. We can move forward. Yes.
So when this all started, the quest was, and in talking with Cheryl and with Kevin on Monday, she was like, why were we not noticed? Nobody noticed us, nothing. And I said, well, what about the 2-on-2? And she said, there is no 2-on-2. And so at 4 o'clock today, I got a notice from the mayor that he was going to be at over at the farmer's market. I went over and verified it with him that it was just as you had said. They had done it from that, but hadn't done it since that. So there really was no communication. Because to me, that was, and the question I was going to bring up in commissioner comments, but I think there, much like there is a notification process that goes through 500 feet from a certain place, if we're talking about it, I just feel like there should have been some kind of notification that went from the city to the school district, letting them know that this was going to be on the agenda so that they could prepare for it. Because Cheryl told me that they're in frequent conversation with the city manager, and so that's why it was kind of surprising too on her part to all of a sudden see this listed. So.
And there's one thing I want to remind everyone is if something is not on our agenda, we cannot ask about it, question it. So one of the reasons getting this on the agenda was just the opportunity to talk about it, because whenever any of us have been, well, what's happening with the Nordhoff Grammar School, we were told it's not on our agenda, we can't discuss it. So this was how we can freely talk. And we can't talk really, we don't talk outside of the meetings, this is our one spot. So it's definitely something that, back to communication, we want to be able to communicate about it, but it's very important that we let everybody know what we're going to be discussing and why. So I will make sure that it's better communicated next time. So my apologies about that.
And is the school district, I would ask this to the attorney, do they still, as the owners of a landmark, a city landmark, do they have to get those work permits on the buildings that are landmarked? Is there anything that excuses them from getting work permits on for the work that they do on those buildings, or can they just do what they want?
No, they have to still get work permits.
They have to get a work permit. So we heard that there was a lot of work done on those properties over the last few years since it was landmarked, but I don't recall that we've ever had a work permit that we could look at. So I'm just wondering if that's something that we could institute also, that procedure be followed, that if they're going to affect those buildings or the property in front or whatever's landmarked, that they have a work permit that we can discuss it.
So the school district doesn't get building permits from the city because they go through the state for building permits. If, for instance, this building that you're talking about this evening, if they were doing something that required a work permit based on the resolution that's in your packet, they would be required to get a work permit. If they're doing something that's not within the resolution stating that they need a work permit, then they wouldn't need a work permit. Certain things don't need work permits. And again, we would look specifically at that resolution. So if they were doing something to the windows, for instance, the windows are listed as something that would require a building permit, a work permit.
Right, well, there's quite a bit of things that are covered in
Right,
in
exactly.
there.
So
In fact, they cover practically the whole buildings.
So they
but-
would be, if they were doing something other than ordinary repair and maintenance on specific features that are in this resolution, then they would be required to get a work permit. If we don't know that they're doing work, I mean, so they would have to come to us and submit for a work permit.
So do we have to keep an eye on them and then call into my Ojai, or is there some process that?
I think that we respect that owners of landmarks come and request work permits when they're required to. So
if we're going to notify them about our meetings and when they're on our agenda, should not they notify us, agree to notify us when they do work on the buildings?
we would hope that owners of landmarks would come to the city when they are doing work that requires a work permit.
Okay, well, I would hope that they would, because they were offended that,
Right, and
that
we're
we didn't notify them, but yet they've not notified us about any of the work.
Once again, we're going to look forward and we're going to have better communication. So if we are, I told Dr. Knox that I thought it was a good idea if we could speak once a month, like maybe before our meeting, to catch up, and she thought that was a good idea. So as long as we're all in communication, nothing should, we got to look forward.
Just want
Yes.
to make sure it's a two-way street.
Yes.
So when you say we should communicate, who's we exactly?
Well, she made it very clear that her door's open for any of us, any of our commissioners. But I did promise that I personally would reach out to, just myself as well. But anybody that wanted to talk to her was welcome to talk to her.
And the maintenance for the school district buildings, I'm assuming, are being done by the school district and not by our public works. Is
That's
that
correct, yes. We don't own those buildings. That's correct. It's the school district.
Okay, right, so, this is, number 3 and number 4 are about maintenance, so that's why we're talking about my Ojai and maintenance, keeping our eyes open to see what needs to be repaired. And as we've, I think, pretty much agree, that a lot of stuff is seen and something's leaking, and you try to fix it immediately and not let it get to the point where it's, becomes a serious issue, correct?
Yeah, I do think now that they have several different renters in those buildings, they might, it'll be easier to notify if there's a leak, if there's something, because I think there was one where like a ceiling, there was water damage, when there's nobody there and
Right.
no one's gonna know, but now that they're leasing out many of those places to different local businesses, like Oh Yes, and so if something, the more eyes that are on it, the better. So if somebody goes in the bathroom and there's a leak, there's somebody to sit there, oh, there's a leak. And so there's more communication when those buildings are being utilized, and they're being utilized again, which is a good thing, because that's when you start noticing things that are going wrong, too.
All right.
So like I said, this is just the first step, like just start the discussion, move forward. Okay. All right. So let's go on to item number 4. Do you have a staff report on this?
So this item kind of follows right along. This is regarding maintenance and protection of historic landmarks. So it's not specific to any one building. It's just regarding Title 4, Chapter 8, which is the historic preservation law of the municipal code. So at the June 11th meeting, the commission, Chair McCatton, supported by the remaining commissioners, requested that this item be on the agenda, and to have staff provide to you what the role is of the city regarding enforcement of maintenance on City of Ojai designated landmarks. So the City of Ojai has significant authority over landmarks with respect to maintenance. This authority is established primarily by the code section that I just noted, Chapter 8, Title 4. And the key provisions are detailed in your packet. And essentially, the owner of a landmark is to keep in good condition all of the exterior portions of the landmark. The key word here is shall. And the interior portions also when they're subject to control. And so that would be if they were called out within the landmark. Often it's the exterior. So all interior portions that are necessary to prevent deterioration and decay also. So it's the duty of the building official or the code enforcement officer to enforce this section. And we've discussed how and when that happens. And demolition by neglect, as has been discussed in the previous item, is expressly prohibited. And it's the community development director that is to take steps to notify the public agencies that own or acquire properties in the city, the public structures, not private, of the responsibilities involved in the ownership of these designated landmarks. And so some communication went on today with the chair regarding, well, how and when does that happen? And there's a new, what is it called at the Knox. What is their title again? Sorry.
Superintendent?
Sorry, thank you.
Dr. Cheryl Knox.
Sorry, so right, there's a new superintendent, however, there's not a new owner.
Right.
And the owners of the school of the structure know that it's a landmark, and they've known for as long as we've had this resolution, and so they have been notified. The city does not notify private or even public facilities. They don't notify private when there's a new owner, because we don't know when there's a new owner. And when it comes to public agencies, they do know, and the ownership hasn't changed hands. So there would be no opportunity or reason for us to notify them that they're supposed to keep up their building. So
Okay.
anyway,
And
with that stumbling, I'm going to hand it over to you.
So I had a death in the family last month, and because of that, it was very hard to reach Maura while I was traveling, was going back and forth, trying to get this together. And it's not exactly what I think I intended this to be when we had talked about it last month. So I want to bring up first about what I had said, what we've talked about many times. Council has talked about it too, about these welcoming packages. You know, somebody comes to the arcade, you have a new business, you have a welcome package, you tell them what it's like to be in a historic district. And what I was saying when I was talking to Dr. Knox, realizing that the landmark was made when it was Andy Cantwell, and then from there it was Tiffany Morse, and now it's Dr. Knox. And maybe the language of what is required of a landmark gets lost in translation. It would be nice if, whether it's this body or somebody, to make sure that you know, it's not a change of hands of ownership, but it is something where it might be helpful to just say, you know, this is what's going on, just all the reasons of how we got here, you know, with that building. So that was just the reason why I was bringing up that, is just maybe there's that was 3, you know, superintendents ago. Maybe there isn't a clear directive from the commission, from the city, about this is what happens with a landmark. So that was that. But the reason why we had brought this up was this was only for city-owned buildings. It was something that I called the buddy system, of maybe having, there's like the arcade, the museum, the Libby Courts, the Ojai Jail, the Sespe Stonewall, and the Smith-Hobson property, which is this, and having either in teams or individually, just each commissioner pick one that they were passionate about, and just kind of did that drive-through, walk-through once a month before our meeting, and not only let us know if there was something that went wrong with the property, but like leaking or broken or graffiti or something, but also if there was, then you would go on My Ojai. So you would have not only coming to here, but you would also be reporting to My Ojai. So at least with these 6, you know, we can always include public-owned, but I'd like to start with just city-owned buildings. I just thought that would be a good way to just kind of do that, because like you said, you're short-staffed, and you know, we're not paid. We're welcome. You know, we're happy. We're passionate about. That's why we're here. We're passionate about preservation. So, you know, just taking these city properties and just like, I mean, I think you and I walked down and we were surprised one day there was like spray paint all over the side of the Ojai Jail. You know, that might have stayed there a long time if we hadn't been down there for another reason and we happened to see it. And then, you know, Brian called Public Works and let them know. But if that was just a normal thing where we each took a city property that's not a structure of merit, just starting with actual landmarks that's city-owned, that we all, if you want to just either each person take one, or teams of 2 take a couple or something like that, and just, you know, once a month. So that was the conversation. That's where this came from. So I don't know if anybody wants to speak on it and see if you think it's a good idea or not. Yes, Brian?
I'll take the jail. Anytime I touch Libby Park, I'm self-committed to walk down to the jail to see how it's doing and how the monument or the plaque is doing. And I will tell you, last chance, just a couple days ago, I walked around to check the plaque. Everything looked great. So yeah, it's kind of off in the distance, but gets me walking. So I'm happy to continue the oversight for the Ojai
You think it's a
Jail.
good idea to do that, like where we each?
I do. I think it's good. I mean, we're out walking the dog, and so we walked around the Nordhoff Grammar School, and I actually was surprised to see one of the gates were open that's usually locked. And then, you know, took pictures of and it was good to know. But yeah, the jail and the school, they're near and dear, but the Ojai Jail I prefer.
Anyone else? Do you like the idea of this, or?
Sure.
Yeah? Yes, everybody's shaking their head, yes?
I don't.
You don't? Well, there's 6 and there's 7 of us. So
If I'm not useful to do anything around here, Why is it that we can spend our time looking at these city buildings, and then we're told, well, you have no authority to tell us that there's something wrong. You've got to go on Ojai to make a complaint. That is ludicrous to me.
But if it's city policy, we have to work within it.
Well, maybe city policy needs to be changed. I mean, I'm sorry there's no money. It seems like we all pay plenty in taxes, and these things are city public places that the staff ought to be looking at. I mean, I'm not gonna argue with all of you. If you all agree to do this, go right ahead, but I don't want any part of it, because I don't wanna be wasting my time. I've obviously been wasting my time with the grammar school. I mean, all of you don't think it's falling apart, so.
We all agree
But I don't-
that the situation that
I
it's
said,
in.
we all think it's
Okay,
falling
well, you
apart.
didn't say anything.
No, we all do. We all agree that, we all have eyes, we all see what the buildings look like, but
Right.
my problem is, it does no purpose to point fingers and look backwards. We have to look forward and come up with a solution.
Good luck.
Okay, I would like to make a comment. I have gone on my Ojai, because that's what was suggested, and regarding maintenance of this property, which is not the school, this is maintained by the Ojai Public Works. And I pointed out last fall, when we had the weather reports coming in of the 100-year storm coming. And I looked at the gazebo over there, and I went on my Ojai, and I said, the tree broke and fell down, damaged, more damage was already done to the gazebo, right? This little building over here, and the pickleball court, et cetera. The pickleball people come here and clean everything themselves voluntarily, the whole area around there. And I asked Public Works twice on my Ojai to just please put a tarp over the roof, because it is getting so damaged. Inside you can see all of the weather damage and all the leak that it's doing. It has not ever been tarped. We're going into year 2.
Yeah, so that's the
So
thing.
you're saying
So-
not to say anything about the past, but I did what I was asked to do, and I've done it on 3 different things with this building, with my Ojai, and, I mean, I thought it was unbelievable with the picture that I gave. They didn't recognize this building. The response to me was, we don't recognize that building or that shrubbery. That says a lot to me. I mean, about the staff. I mean, they didn't recognize the building?
So let's talk about the other one, the tarp. So that is something we can't do, is tell you what to do. Spend money on a tarp, put the tarp up. But if we're seeing something that we feel would be helpful and something that we need, what do we do with something
So
like that?
Commissioner Moore is correct. It's a Public Works area. So that complaint or concern would be routed to Public Works, and I'm going to assume that Public Works is addressing it in the way that they find appropriate. I can't speak for Public Works. I can't speak for Public Works. So, I mean, how can I? I'm a planner.
Right.
And I'm not in that department. So I think that, you know, I don't want to sound like a broken record. However, code compliance addresses issues that are put onto my Ojai. If it's a Public Works issue, we send it to Public Works. If it's a community development issue, we deal with it in as best we can in a timely manner. And if we have a question about a location, we'll ask you what that is, and then maybe we need your help. So, for whatever reason. You know, that's all I can say. I can't speak to a tarp on.
I'm just was
No, and
using it as an example.
Of course we can't.
I know, I mean.
Of course you can't tell us how to fix.
Right.
You can tell us that there's graffiti on something, and we got to get out there and get rid of the graffiti, but you can't tell us how to save a building.
Right, so
you
we
can just tell us that the
can't
buil-
tell you to spend money on a tarp, But if we know if we see it's going to get damaged,
If you perceive that it's going to be damaged, then I think that you would think that somebody's going to go out and take a look at that and see if that's the case, and then act
Gina?
accordingly.
I was wondering, how about if we set up this system and we come to a meeting and we all agree that this needs to be fixed, this needs to be looked at? Then one of us, we have like 3 things that came up, and then one of us just calls my Ojai and says, the Historic Preservation Commission met, and these are the things we'd like you to look at. And then it's on my Ojai, and they've got,
Yeah,
Well, you
you're gonna-
don't
you're
call
gonna- you're
them,
not
it's
gonna-
a,
or will you write it, yeah.
and there's a record, clearly, there's a record of these things.
But would that do
but
it?
it, but it, would
that
it,
be
if it's
okay?
coming from the commission, would it be like,
I don't
know, I'm just asking you, is that a better way to do it?
I don't think that there's a better or worse way to do it. I don't think that you,
I don't think
I
it would
think that
force
you
them to
need to
do
put
it,
it,
but we
you need,
would.
well, we don't need to be forced to do it. Everything that's put onto my Ojai is addressed. Is it addressed the way the person that reports it wants it to be? Maybe not, but it's addressed. So please, put something on my Ojai, whether you bring it to this meeting or not. And you're not going on there as a commission, you're going on there as a person. And if you have any trouble with going on to the website, please call.
But if we do this buddy system, and I'm responsible for the Sespe wall, and I happen to see graffiti all over it, and I go on to, because this body, which is, we're an official body of the city of Ojai, and I see graffiti, I can't put, this is Gina McHatton, Commissioner of the city, from Commission. I know, I'm tasked with checking on the Sespe wall, and this month I noticed that there was graffiti.
Why can't you do that?
You said I had to do it as an individual.
Well,
and
I didn't say you can't do that, but we're not,
I just want to
I
do
don't
it
know, I'm
right.
gonna look to the attorney, because I don't see why you're even going there. Why don't you just go on my Ojai and make the complaint? Why do you have to say you're doing it as a commission?
Well, I'm hoping that as a commission, we might have a little bit more weight behind us because we are educated in.
Every single thing that goes onto my Ojai is recorded and addressed.
Okay.
If
But
you want to
it's
put it
coming-
on as a commission, you can't go on as a commission because you're not having a meeting, you're not noticing this.
No, but
So, I'm sorry, Cody, I'm gonna stop talking. Should they report something as a commission, or should they report something as an individual?
Report to me as an individual in my Ojai. As you said, everything gets addressed. It's probably, you don't have to wait for a meeting, so it's the fastest way to make sure something gets looked at. So I think my Ojai remains the best solution.
I have a question related to this. So let's say, for example, I go on my Ojai certainly as an individual, but should I legally, in some manner, maybe it's not even necessary, but say that I am specifically say that I am reporting this as a private citizen? Because I don't want it to necessarily be confused that I'm reporting it as an HPC commissioner.
No, you're still, as a commissioner, you're still able to report things to my Ojai.
No,
Yeah,
I know,
but-
but I mean, like sometimes I'll write something to somebody in the city and I'll say, I'll state I am writing this as a private citizen. Because I don't want it to be confused with my role at the city. I mean, do you have any comments along those lines?
But if we take a vote and we decide that we want to do this buddy system, and you are tasked with, let's say, the Libby courts, and you see some damage there, wouldn't you be putting, your name and just that you are a commissioner? Just
Well,
so
that
it's-
makes sense, but this has more nuance than that. I am prepared to go on my Ojai as soon as possible and report what's going on at Ojai Elementary School. So this is relevant. This question's relevant to that.
Okay,
I'm not doing that as part of the buddy system.
right, that's,
I may be doing it as a commissioner, I may be doing it as a private citizen. I am asking and maybe it's not necessary to do it in this format, but should I specifically say I'm doing this as a private citizen or I'm doing it as a commissioner? And that's what I'm asking for clarification on from the attorney.
You are free to submit it however you'd like.
Is that right?
Yes.
And there's no ramifications for the city. I'm also thinking of the city.
If you were speaking and saying that I'm doing this on the behalf of the Historic Preservation Commission,
That's different.
than saying I'm a commissioner on the HPC, or
Okay.
my name is such and such. And, okay, so,
All right.
and then beyond that, if you put your email address and your name and/or a phone number, then you will be contacted, may be contacted. Some people report things anonymously. So if there's a question, we can't get back to them and say, we don't know what you're talking about, or whatever. So it's always, to me, I mean, sometimes people want to do things anonymously because maybe it has to do with their neighbor. But I think, but it's all confidential anyway. We never tell anyone who it is that made the complaint. However, if, in order for code compliance to have communication with the person that's putting out the concern, it's a good idea to put your email address or a phone number.
Yeah, I would do that. Okay, so in that case, if I was identifying myself as a commissioner in a complaint, would I put my city email address to be consistent with what how I'm representing myself? Or would I use my private email address?
What do you think, Cody?
I think how you wish to be contacted is up to you.
Okay. These fine points can be niggling at times. That's why I'm
Sure.
asking. Thank you.
No, thank you for bringing those up. Those are good questions that I wondered myself.
I want to say that once there's a code case, it's confidential. And so even the person that's reported the concern, we don't go back and forth and let you know what's happening. Once we have a code case, it's confidential between the city and
Right.
and the property owner.
Yeah, I understand. That's like the police.
Okay, so is this something we want to kick down the lane, or do we want to do this tonight where we all pick something that we're going to drive by before the meeting or sometime during each month and be responsible to report to the commission and to my Ojai? Because what that you're doing by having this thing is you'll be coming to us and you'll be saying, I put it on my Ojai, and then we'll say, did you get a response? That kind of keeps that in check too, because then we can be like, then we'll know you didn't or did and what happened. So it is a little bit of a check and balance instead of just kind of putting it out there and not getting an answer.
I would like to suggest that this number 4 is just like the museum report. It's in every single meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And we go over and I don't think necessarily we need to pick. I mean, I've been concerned about this building and these structures, et cetera.
I
And
thought
so-
of that when I was thinking, I figured you'd want this.
Well, yeah, but I mean, and I can just say every month, yes, once again, and I've asked here with the other commissioners, I said, please, go on my Ojai. I've been saying this for, I don't know, almost as long as that I've known about my Ojai. Would other people please use it and reiterate what we're talking about? We are concerned about these outbuildings, and that's where it's with discussions with somebody at the museum who said to me, yes, it's called demolition by neglect. And that's where that came from. It's not to be insulting to anybody. This has taken decades to happen. There's nobody in this room who's responsible for any of this. It's gone on for so long. But we have to start sometime to start getting it done. you know? And I don't know how else to do it, but just to, every single month, we go through it and say, look, this is what we've done. We're asking for this. We have no power, folks, out there other than to ask.
Right, so that's why this kind of came up, and this was something that you and I came up with. So do we want to try and do this and bring it up every month? Okay, and so, Brian, you said you want to do the Ojai Jail more than the museum?
I'm going to do that no matter what you decide today. So
but-
just so you know.
Okay, but the museum,
What?
I guess,
I see the museum several times a week, so I'm happy to check on the museum.
But please go on my Ojai so that we have, it's not like a social meeting with, oh, I talked to somebody, I ran into them on the street. We have to have documentation that we are asking.
yes.
I
yeah.
wholeheartedly agree.
Okay.
If I see something, I will say something. Yes.
That way.
That way.
That way.
Yes.
Yeah, and I
Yes.
mean, I'm part of the problem right now because I'm going to admit that I have never even logged on to my Ojai.
Shame on you.
I know. So I'm trying to fix problems. That's one of my problems here is, because I always feel like I just call Maura, but I'm going to do it the right way and I'm going to, you know, I mean, I was insulted. I have to admit, I was insulted. It's like I'm a commissioner. People should be coming to us instead of us going to my Ojai. So I was a little bent, but I'm going to get past that and I'm going to do it the right way. And so I will go on my Ojai. So do you want to take one of these?
I'll take anyone.
How about the arcade?
The arcade.
That'll
Oh,
keep you
thank
busy.
you.
So where do you walk your dogs? Do you go to the Libby courts?
No, but I do walk through the arcade like 3 or 4 times a week. And I look at things, you know, with an eye.
Do you want to do that? Would you rather?
Well, I could be his partner, but
There's enough
I
there.
wouldn't do it with him. I would do it separately.
Okay.
But yeah, because I'm already there, you know,
Okay, so the arcade.
I'd like that.
So the arcade and the what was the other one?
The what?
The arcade and you said there was one more. You were going to do a part. Oh, because you said it was enough.
The
Got it.
Sespe wall? Is that what the other thing was?
The Sespe wall. That's a pretty easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It did get knocked over early one morning, so.
I try to ignore
I didn't
that.
have my Ojai then, so I called.
Okay. So so Brian is going to do the jail
Yes.
and the museum.
Yes.
Okay, and you guys are gonna do the arcade? Okay, and then Smith Hobson's an awfully big,
Not really.
no, it's not too big for you to do on your own? Okay, and then the Libby Courts, and then the Sespe Wall. So the arcade is gonna be, do you wanna do the Sespe Wall too, since it's right there? That's pretty easy.
Sespe wall.
Okay.
Is there a code on removing graffiti? I've seen some graffiti on a historic building.
I would have to contact public works, I'm sure there's
They have to remove it in so much time? Okay, I'll
So,
call about that.
What if it's on a private building? Who does that? Like on the Ojai Mountain Farm, I think it's because that ladder was there for so long. The whole side of the brick right there is covered in graffiti now. So is that the property owner? Is that, Yeah. Okay. So is that something that would also be in my Ojai, even if it's,
Please, if you see graffiti, put it on my
okay. All right. And then,
Okay.
okay, I guess I'll do the Livy courts. That'll give me a good reason to get out there. And do you want to do anything? Are you around?
Yes, I would like to, but I don't have anything specific, so if there are any that you recommend.
Do you want to buddy with me with the Livy courts, and we'll just make sure one of us
Sure.
walks it each month? Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Perfect. So will give, do you have that information, or should I text it to you or email it to you with each person for the next?
I have that here, and it's probably in the minutes.
Okay, do we need to take a vote on it?
Nope, because it's a discussion item and you've just created like a.
Microphone.
Discussion.
Yeah, I have the notes. I'm sure it's also in the minutes, and it's a discussion item, and you've created a kind of an ad hoc situation. So,
Okay.
yeah, no voting.
So now we're going to go on to item number 5, which is the City Beautiful Award.
Yes, so the recommendation after a very brief presentation is to receive the liaison's report, which is going to be Commissioner Akins, and to discuss and also formulate the next steps.
So we go on to.
Nope, I was just
was
just
looking at
waiting.
what Mara
I was
was-
just waiting. So the details that you might want to discuss are like who would be receiving the awards, excuse me. What would be the criteria? How many awards would be given? Would it be an annual award? And when would it be presented? And those are just some ideas that I thought of. These are only some ideas. And again, Commissioner Akins has provided documents for your review prior to the meeting, and I'll open it up to Commissioner Akins.
Okay, thank you very much. So I just want to make some quick adjustments. If you go to the third page on that, attachment A, page 1 of 8, and you look under core qualifications and you look at the third bullet there, we're going to draw a line through preservation of historic spaces. Okay, if we go down to item 3, go to the second bullet, go over to the right, we're going to cross out history.
I'm sorry, would you go back to the first thing you said you're crossing out?
Public art installations or preservation of historic spaces.
Oh, okay.
I'm just making sure that people understand that this has nothing to do with our historic awards and it's not competing with it in any way. So I'm just making some small changes. So attachment A, page 2 of 8, there's a historic preservation segment. Cross that out, if you would, both lines. Down at the bottom, award categories, if you could cross out Historic Preservation Award. That Chat GPT didn't learn. Okay. Let's see. Historic is mentioned on page, attachment A, page 6 of 8, but it's Historic Archives and Ojai Community History, so it's not really anything that's going to be compared against anything else. So going through that, if you flip the pages, you'll see core qualifications. I've listed a number that are there. This has been passed out for a little bit. Commitment to civic beauty. These go a lot from the talk given by Edward Drummond Libby. Again, just qualifications, beautification of public spaces, architecture or design excellent, public art installations, crossing out preservation historic spaces. A public benefit, you can read through that. Going down to number 3, a cultural, educational, or artistic impact, and long-term community. What I tried to do, and I've mentioned this before, is select different themes. And if you go over to page, I guess 7 of 8, I'm looking at this. There's a page where you'll see questions. You'll see Edward Drummond Libby, Ojai City Beautiful Award suggested questions and answers at the top. Nice picture there. If you go down, so area of eligibility, do we want to look at just within the City of Ojai boundaries, within the City of Ojai influence? The City of Ojai influence is actually, for us non-residents, even when you're non-resident outside the City of Ojai, you can still be considered for a commission, but there's an area of influence that you have to be within, just to keep people from Ventura from driving all the way up here. So that's what that is, and trying to figure out. Which City of Ojai Commission, number 3, which City of Ojai Commission will deliberate, come to a consensus, and make a recommendation. Recommended that we do that as the HBC as the focal point, but that doesn't preclude, and you can see that in the other places, that doesn't preclude other commissions from putting things forward. I mean, even now when we're talking about historic awards, somebody could walk in and say, hey, I think this person should be considered for an annual historic award. And, you know, we may say thumbs up, thumbs down, but they could still make that recommendation. So what I'm trying to do is to open that up, but then focus it as a single person, a single group that's making that recommendation to the city council so that they're not deluged. Potential themes. Here's the different themes that I thought of. Architecture, and again, I mentioned this before. City of Ojai Historic Archives. This is like the things you would find in the museum. And I've listed people who I basically link to that so that they use them as kind of a sounding board or somebody that we can go and ask questions to. Like, you know, Wendy, hey, tell me what kind of our historic archives do you have in here? And then that's the person you go to. Chumash Peoples and Lands, Julie Tumum Stensley, I've talked to her. One of the things I wanted to consider on this was to get some kind of award, some kind of plaque that's done that celebrates the Chumash people in this valley. Because if you're a new people coming into the valley, which is the home of the Chumash people, you would have to go, oh, that's right, to the museum and only to the museum to find anything that talks about the Chumash people. And so the idea I suggested to Julie was to try to get something that put together through the commission that we could put together and then put it as a mounted plaque in the Libby Park right there in that main area. So it's a place where people go and people can be exposed. Wendy also mentioned Chumash for the Chumash garden that's there. That's a little side issue. What are the qualifiers for the City Beautiful? Number 5, you can see, again, I listed the different things that we might look at. Additional thoughts are items that are historic, parts, schools, city landmarks, national landmarks, a whole variety of things. I didn't think, these are things that clear back in the time of Libby that created a city beautiful to us. And we're going to look at one example that existed back then that I picked, but also we're looking at things that today are making our city, renewing it to be beautiful or making it even more beautiful or taking the beauty of the city, of whatever that is, and carrying it forward for others to see. The awards, as we've seen in other entities, Craig had given me information on Santa Barbara. Bronze plaques, that's what I know, certificates. The calendar, I suggested that if we do this, that we would start it at the beginning of the year so as not to cross over with the historic awards that we're doing, so that they're kept completely separate. So those are the different calendar things, different ideas. What I wanted to do then is just do kind of an example on a plaque. And I was, for church, I picked somebody up and take them to Help of Ojai to get food, other than this week they're closed. And then I have about an hour in between, and so I walked the city and walked different places. And so I went up to the Little Brick Schoolhouse, otherwise known as the Lavender Inn. They had a really nice landmark plaque that was 7 inches wide and 9 inches tall. So I picked it and picked some of the items and ended up doing these 2 plaques. The plaques only differ in what we wanted. The first plaque that you see is Edward Drummond Libby. He was, I think I said 63. at the time he did the talk. And so there, it's a beautiful picture of him as 63, but many of us have only seen Edward Drummond Libby in this picture. So just so you could make comparisons. So this was kind of the idea of what a plaque would be. It would be not a large plaque, but just something that is smaller like this. Again, this is 9 inches tall, 7 inches wide, and could be there as an add-on to whatever the recommendation they may or may not have taken. Because again, this is not talking about whether the item is historic or not, it's whether they contributed to the beauty of the city of Ojai. And again, this is the little brick schoolhouse. It talks about beyond its educational purpose, the little brick schoolhouse served as an essential gathering place for the community. Before dedicated public buildings and churches were established, residents met here for religious services, civic discussions, public meetings, social events, and community celebrations, which I thought were great things that helped make the community beautiful because people got together and had fun. Let's see, and then just a little close at the end. Its enduring legacy as both a school and community center makes the Little Brick Schoolhouse a significant historic resource, which it is, and a worthy recipient of the Libby Ojai City Beautiful Award. So I'll amend that there because it doesn't really need to be historic. We're celebrating it for the beautiful type items that we have. And so I think this is the point where I put questions together. I put suggestions to those answers together, but it's just to give us kind of a starting point or wake our brains up. The plaques, I will tell you that I had talked to our plaque maker, and he was going to have his designer create mock-ups for me, and I just kept running out of time, and I wanted to get it tomorrow. So my wife said, "Try ChatGPT," and I'm like, "Well, I've never done this before." And in 25 minutes, I had this, and I got to tell it, "Okay, could we do a picture of Edward Drummond Libby when he's 63, or Edward Drummond Libby when he's a little older, and what would he have looked like on the day he was giving the speech?"
At least you didn't do it like what he would look like as a Muppet, so.
So anyway, it's just the suggestion. So the next step would be to schedule a time with the city council and then to make a presentation to them. But again, this is meant not to compete with our historic awards. Just to recognize it as one of those things that were community-driven and were beneficial to the community. And again, things that were 100 years old that were here back when Libby was here, and here's things that are now making the community beautiful, the beautiful community that it is. And we have those. A lot of different things. And you saw the different people that I talked about. Chumash was Julie Tumamite, Stensley, the rancheros and the paths that became roadways, that became highways. And talking with Mark Tovar, he knows everything about those. And then just the different people, architecture, and just little things like this.
So I have some questions.
Yes.
So because this says, education, and you have different categories, are you imagining it, we don't have to find something for each one every time. It could just be one plaque that we're giving out that year, and the closest category is education. It's not that we need to find one for education, one for each one in your list.
Oh, no. It's just like the awards that we're doing today. We just did the annual awards. We did them for separate items, separate focuses. It's just what we think and what we propose and however
Then what
many
if
we do.
it's, I gave, like, my example is, I have a friend of mine does the storytelling festival, and let's say we decided that was a good idea to do for that, but I think she works from her home. So what do you do with the plaque? Do you, because our plaques, you hand them and people go home with them and they have them, but this is more like,
Yeah, so to answer your question, it said, let's see, awards. Item number 6, awards. Bronze plaques, see attached example, certificates, and other items that are presented to by the city council or the HPC. So we could do certificates of, that basically mimic this to some degree that we're giving out to people. But, when it's maybe a physical place where we can actually give it to them, I think a plaque would be nice, especially when it's, prevalent.
okay.
No, I agree with you. No, but not everybody's going to get a plaque.
And then, so the recommendations could come from anywhere, like you said.
Yes.
And then this body would oversee it. But do you think I know when I was looking back at old minutes of this body, there was a committee that did the voting and came to the commission with who they voted for.
Mm-hmm.
Were you around during that time? Because I wasn't, so I don't know. Was it before your time as well? Was it when you guys were on the commission? Because it was like, so for the Historic Preservation Commission plaques, we would decide, we would all bring in who we wanted, and then the committee would then go off in between meetings, and they would meet like a.
Yeah, I don't really remember doing a committee.
So-
Now on this, one of the things was I went ahead and did this myself and looked through the language, but Craig and I had talked about that if it's, and this is pretty simple, especially when there were like 3 different places where I could read this. If you go in the Ojai book, it talks about that. In our package today, it talks about the different things that are here. But there's other things that will have more, like, I talked about methods of transportation, thinking exactly that it goes to the railroad, which, Craig and Rick are talking about.
Right.
That is something that made the city beautiful.
Right.
So in that case, we may, again, working with the committee, decide on, they're doing multiple educational plaques, but maybe some kind of plaque recognition in a place where, that was open.
Yeah, I
that
think
could-
this fits really in with what Libby was all about, was trying to not just beautify structures, but beautify a community itself. And so I think this is a great idea, because it goes with the city beautiful. It's when bringing people up, expectations, when neighbors want to follow suit and be good community members and active, and that's all part of Libby's vision. So I like it. Does anybody have any questions? Craig, how do you feel about it?
No, I know how expensive those plaques are, so. I was thinking
Well, he said
maybe
it could be
That's why I said.
The wooden ones with
Made by
the
7,
little
yeah.
metal on them.
the 7 by 9. But
No, I think it's a great idea. I would be in favor of giving it a try. I especially like it now that you've taken out any language that might confuse it with what we already do.
Yeah, no, that was a great suggestion. I appreciate
But I
that.
think that it'll work itself out over time and be a good program.
So what would be next, Maura? How do we present it to council? Would it something that we show up and ask, or does it ask to be on their agenda, or what happens?
Well,
Do we need to get Brian to just answer all the questions you had so that,
Well, those were just suggestions as to what you might want to discuss and kind of hone in on. I think that something that's really clear and concise would be good for the city council. And if you went to the city council during public comments, then you would get it into their ears like right as soon as you want to get there. Designate one of you to do that. And again, you'd have something really concise and limited to talk about. The other option is to ask that it get on an agenda. And I don't have control over their agenda, but it would be faster. It would be faster to go during public comments.
Okay.
Would it be better in presentations? There's a presentation. Is that only for outside groups, or can it? Well, there's also commission comments.
Commissioner comments from other commissions. So you would, during that time, yes, thank
So
you.
we could talk in commissioner comments.
Yes, you could. Yeah.
And we
Okay.
also can ask our liaison, like, for her advice and,
Yeah, well, we've talked about this when Kim was here.
right.
So I think timing-wise, though, it would be best to do it during commissioner comments.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. And you can leave that.
And specifically seeking, like, direction, approval, something, blessing.
So I would move we go ahead and have Brian make up that sheet and maybe discuss it with you, and if you guys are okay, then.
Sure.
Bring it to commissioner comments at the next or some,
Well, yeah, next time we can schedule us in.
so can we so we have a motion to,
Sorry, it's a discussion item, so you don't need to take a vote on it.
Okay.
It sounds like Brian will slim this down, make it real clear, and then the two of you are going to meet, and
Yep,
you don't
that
need to take
sounds
a vote.
excellent.
okay, and so, but we're all in support of going forward with this? Yes, yes, okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Um,
Number 6. Okay, so this is the Taramino Advisory Commission discussion. This was something that I was just wondering if it was something that they were interested in doing, so I had asked Brian to talk to his friends there, but I don't know if we want to wait. We want to wait until they
Well, can I-
could be here? or-
Actually,
Can I say a couple words about it? 'Cause
Well,
I-
we have to get a staff report
So
first.
After the
I'll
staff.
just open it up. This is item number 6. The subject is the Taramina Advisory Committee discussion. And at the last meeting, that's June 11th, the commission discussed, and I guess it was Commissioner Walker requested that this item be added to the agenda, and the chair seconded the request. And it's an opportunity for the commission to discuss the potential of creating an advisory committee for the Taramina district. And so it's on the agenda for your discussion. I
Well,
don't
maybe
have
the
any-
lawyer will be able to chime in on this, because did some research on it to see if there were other historic districts where they had a setup like that with a committee, and it seems like if we set up the committee, that it becomes the kind of committee that would have to follow the Brown Act. And so I thought, well, maybe that would be kind of cumbersome, and also it would just add another layer of approval to the guy that wants to put a new roof on or wants to change. So I was wondering maybe that we could just encourage Taramina to set up some system on their own, or maybe when someone wants to do a project that alters a building, that notification would be sent to the other people in the historic district. I don't know, just, I felt like there should be some way that the other people in the community could provide some input, and they might not even know that their neighbor was gonna build this big fence or something that they feel violates the whole spirit of the historic district. But I don't wanna create something that's gonna be a mess.
okay, so after our meeting last time, the two people I mentioned at our last meeting were John Lambert. John Lambert, I worked closely with when we were doing the Taramina as a historic district. He was one of the individuals. And then Robin Gerber is the other one. Robin is a retired Washington, D.C. attorney who came back here and does all kinds of historic plays and different things. And they are both very keyed in to what's going on in the community. and if there's ever an issue, then I'll reach out to John. If John's not around, I'll reach out to Robin. I touched John's, knocked on the door, and then touched the camera, and no answer. And by the time I got to Vaughn's, he called me on the phone. So he's in New York. That was pretty good. So basically, it was to have, and they seem to be, I talked about the roof issues that we talked about. I won't mention it other than that. And they actually both knew. It's a very close community, and they both knew about the project. They both knew about issues that were happening that took place. One was the contractor's fault on the delay. Robin Gerber, of course, gotta love Robin, had some suggestions on how maybe we could make things a bit quicker in getting things through there, and then help get the information out to the residents. I'm pretty sure they probably have their own homeowners
I
association.
was gonna say, don't they have an HOA?
I guess,
They
but
would be the body that would do this.
They don't?
I don't know, do they?
Not to
Or
my
just-
knowledge, no.
Oh, okay.
So,
well,
and
I'm
so
just
if there's
going by
a-
the people that I knew it and that I've seen in council meetings and have been, were very helpful when we were doing the Taormina Historic District, and nice.
I just
And
was thinking
Did not
this,
want to get involved
like,
in the community.
let's say there's a back door window or something that we would not care about and they would not care about. It would just be nice that if they had like a contact person, a little subcommittee that just said, oh, you don't have to worry about that. That's not part of the what's named in the Taormina district. So they're not wondering, so they're not coming here, they're not taking,
Well,
ju-
just
that was, my
you-
whole idea is just trying to make
The
things a little
example
more
that you just used would need, they would need a building permit, and through that process, staff would analyze it to see if it needed a minor work permit, a work permit, or neither. And if it were windows, and they were the same size, same location, same material that are in the design guidelines, then it's possible that they would need neither.
Okay.
It's
I
also
think that-
possible that they would need a minor work permit. It's only when they're altering one of the objects of record that they would need to come to get a major work permit through the commission.
I just know that we had discussed after the last meeting that there was frustration at the front desk because there were roofs that needed to be done in a certain amount of time or they were going to lose their home insurance. And we don't ever want to be something that's stopping that process. So if we know it's on the pipeline, if we knew it was the deadline and we weren't going to meet, if there was a contact person that could let one of us know that this is happening, maybe we could ask you, can we have a special meeting, or can we vote by email, or can we do something that can push this faster so they're not going to lose their home insurance? We're just trying to figure out ways that, because this was a district that came from them with their set of criteria, so it's something that we just want to respect what their needs and also respect that they gave us our one and only city district, so.
So,
I think there's a timeline, isn't there, for when they get a permit, we get the notice, there's 15 days, and then there's another so many days, so
Right.
our meetings are usually within that time frame.
The goal is to get it here within that time frame, and so it's not extended.
Yeah.
That is, it's not just the goal, that's actually what's been happening.
So
There's
It's
a
not
process.
It's not gonna hold them up to have
Right.
it come to us to look at it.
Right, and a minor work permit takes just as long, if not longer sometimes, than a major work permit.
If it's a major
There's-
one,
there's
we
a-
definitely wanna look at it.
Right, but there's a process.
And it's
So-
the same process, cause there's times that you have to
Right.
wait for people to appeal.
So let me give you a couple examples. So I called Robin and said, we're just trying to get feedback. Sometimes there's issues that maybe if someone else brought to us, we could help out. And she knew exactly who I was talking about, knew what their issues were, and there were the two roofs. One of those was not something that we could have done anything about because it was on their side. But we've had the occasion where there was a gentleman down at the, there was a gentleman in the Taramina that we were having some issues with. He came in and there was something that took place and he left. And so I found out, I went and talked to John about who the individual was, what his questions were, was then able to talk to the individual down at the end, calmed him down. He came back in and was very complimentary to staff on the second time through. So, that was something where having those individuals are helpful to us in getting things done and helpful to staff.
Is there a way that if it's something that affects Taramina, which affects all the people in the district, that if it's gonna be at our meeting, whether it's a minor or a major work permit, that we can have people at Taramina opt in to a system where we would send them the link to the packet if it's something that affects what's going on in their community?
Well, when there's a public hearing, so that would be a major work permit, there's a legal notice that goes out to everyone within 300 feet of every property owner. So if there's a renter there, they're not going to get it. It's going to go to the property owners within 300 feet of the subject site.
I see.
So
they have an opportunity to come here. They
Okay.
know when and where and what.
So at this point, we don't want to do anything with this right now.
I wouldn't want to set up a city committee. It would be,
No?
No, like I said, I have full confidence. And Robin, again, has been involved in senior and council meetings.
just
and
feels a
John-
little inelegant to me to have two people that we know that we communicate with them, but the others don't, even though they're obviously people connected with the community, but it doesn't seem very formal.
It works.
All right, never mind.
Okay.
Well, and if there's other issues that come up that we need to change that, we can always change that.
Okay, number 7, which is the Ventura and Ojai Valley Railroad Heritage Trail.
Thank you. So at the last meeting, Commissioner Walker presented updates, and there were 4 locations for signs that were specifically noted, and that's the site of the Ojai Depot on Fox Street, and down behind Libby Park along the trail near the jail. To the left, to left of the pathway that goes into Libby Park, and within the Rotary Park at the Matilaha Station platform. And also the cost for all 4 of these was determined to be $3,764. And so this evening, Commissioner Walker could give us another update.
Well, we have a committee that meets at the museum of myself, Rick Bisaccia, Commissioner Bisaccia, Wendy Barker, who's the head of the director of the museum, and Roger Conrad, who is a designer and an employee of the museum, and Colleen McDougall, who is an artist extraordinaire in Ojai. And we've been working on trying to get the design for the first one, because it's going to set the template for all of them. So that's why it's taken us a little longer to do this first one, but we're hoping that from here on, it'll just be a lot easier with the basic design done. So you want to come up and tell us a little bit about it, Colleen?
No, I'm embarrassed. I forgot the QR code.
Oh, you imagine there's a QR code that goes on this.
You've been here for almost 3 hours. We should have taken you first.
What's that? So this is for the depot, and we're doing 4 of them. and so after this one, we'll start, each one will have in common the header and the footer. And it'll have the map that shows where they are on the map, and a description of what they're looking at. And then Colleen has done a nice one of her little cartoons in the bottom. We have our kids' corner where the little kids have something to relate to, and the question of the day is, how did they turn the locomotive around, you know? And it shows a picture of the turntable, a photograph, and then it has one of her cartoons of the critters of Ojai turning it around and asking the question, why did they call it the Armstrong turntable? And it was because you had to have strong arms to pull and push this whole big locomotive around. So anyway, if there are any comments or?
It's
I want to say
beautiful.
that is absolutely beautiful. What a beautiful plaque. Thank you. And what a win for the HPC. This is really
Well worth it.
fantastic.
Yeah, so I think from now on, from here on, it'll just be finding the pictures, preparing them, getting the captions. And Mark Lewis, I forgot to mention him, he's done all the writing on it. And so he creates the text, we find the pictures, and Roger sets up the pictures and photographs and works with Colleen to make sure it has a nice, beautiful design. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, you know, one of the things, because I've collected postcards through the valley, and most of it's now at the museum. And people were always like, I think that's one of the two things people regret the most being torn down, was the train depot and then the bank. And here was the rub. So if you're collecting postcards and there's anything that says train or has anything that looks like a train, the value of the postcard goes up like sixfold, and they're impossible to get because you have like 100 people trying to get. So I don't think I could ever get, well, I couldn't afford it.
Well, we were lucky
So to have that there like that brings back what people who know about it now love it, and people that didn't know about it will love it. And I think that's just fabulous.
It's a cooperative effort between the Ojai Museum and the County of Ventura's museum, because they have a lot of pictures down there, and they've agreed to let us use their photographs at no charge. They usually charge for the use of them. So that's why they get a little logo down at the bottom. And so anyway, we hope they'll all come through and be
The
great.
kids' corner's great.
Yeah.
It's great to bring kids into this, because you don't see that often.
What's that?
The kids,
Oh,
you
the
don't
kids'
see
corner.
that
Yeah.
on these.
No, and that's, I
great.
figure we're always gonna put the kids' corner in the same place, so that as the parents are walking along with their kid, the kid will go up and they'll know where to go to look for the kids' corner questions, so. Yeah, and having Colleen's artwork there, her cartoons, I don't know if all of you realize that she used to do a cartoon every week in the Ojai Valley News. That was great. Yeah. 25 years. Yeah. I
And-
still have the one that you did of me that, I won't talk about that one.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
yeah. So while you're
Come up
doing
and
that,
grab it and take it over there?
yes, so while you're doing that, I want to point out what I think is the best artwork she's done. And that is David Mason in full relief mode over there at the Libby Park.
There's some people that hate that one.
Not me.
David, he just would laugh like that.
Oh, yes. No, I love it.
The quality of the images are so good.
Yeah,
To be able to take that old of an image and to be able to blow it up and
yeah, yeah.
and to have it be that high quality.
Well, Roger, and we do work on it, you know, and he makes some higher res, and he does some good work.
Roger Conrad.
Thank you. It's a beautiful project, like Maria said.
All right.
So, I did have a question.
It's got
Commissioner
words.
Sims. If Commissioner Sims wanted to write a check for one,
Microphone?
where,
Oh,
how does that
How does she write a check for one? I think we're gonna wait and do the 4 and see how they go, and then we'd add more as we went along. So the one you were talking about that your husband helped with, we probably won't do that until the second phase after the Ojai Days. So at that point, we'll come and ask you.
Well, I think we talked about that there would be a discussion at some point about sponsorship and how that would work. So
Yeah.
when that gets worked out, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully the money's still there.
Microphones.
Anyone else have anything you want to add to that? No? Okay, let's move along to, yeah, we can't put too much more on Craig. Craig, can you give us in the Historic Resource Inventory Service update? I guess we need a staff report on that first.
Actually, I don't have a staff report other than to announce that you are going to receive and file a report from the ad hoc committee members regarding the Historic Resource Inventory Survey update. So it's all
Yes.
yours, Commissioner Walker.
Okay, well, fortunately, they're very good, and they send me a little cheat sheet every time after we talk on the phone to give you, so you get it straight. They did a research trip to the Ojai Valley Museum archive and spent the morning at the Ojai Valley Museum going through archives to get information about Ojai history, and then I had lunch with them, and then after lunch, they went to the city, and they went to the building planning department for historic building permits and took a look through some of those. They're identifying additional themes to be covered in the context statement. As you may recall, the context statement is the historical themes that the buildings fit into. And one of them is identifying WPA and PWA Depression era construction. And for a long time, I thought, because David Mason told me there was only this one fence out in the east end, rock wall, that was done with WPA Depression era. But it turns out there are quite a few buildings. The old fire station that's now the Vineyard wine tasting down on Montgomery Street, that was built with WPA funds. We know that the cafeteria at the Ojai Elementary School was WPA funds done in 1938. The auditorium at Matilaha was actually built in 1926, but they found it wasn't earthquake-proof, and so it was completely redone during the Depression and used WPA funds. So there's quite a few projects, and they're going to try to identify those. They're also looking at multifamily residential development. As you may know, Ojai doesn't have, even today, a lot of apartment buildings, and I think the first apartment buildings started appearing probably in the 50s, but mostly when people had family things, it was like the Cottages Among the Flowers or the Mallory Way property, where there were more these cabins or small units. So they're doing a lot of research, and they've been working on Native Americans, the early Rancho period, and then all the things that went on during the 1960s to 80s, some of which I sent you in a historic little summary that I wrote up about that period and how it affected behind the arcade. And the project, they say, is on track to deliver a preliminary draft of a context statement at the end of July. So anyway, they're feeling like they're on track, and we'll be hearing again next month.
Great. Any questions? No? Okay, let's move on to the, this is more Craig.
The what?
It feels like this is, so much. We rely on you, and I'm.
Oh, yeah.
But the Arcade Plaza ad hoc to research the history. So, once this went on the agenda, Craig, everybody got that email, right? That had the history that he put together so far on the Arcade Plaza.
Right. Well, every once in a while, we feel like it's important to to really dig down deeper and see what the history is of a building. And we don't have funds to do a formal consultant report, but we could do an informal report like we did on the Matilaha Junior High campus and Nordhoff High School. And I think it's important to have those because I think people, it really helps. For example, with the Nordhoff High School, the Arbolada campus, I sent a copy of that to all the school board members, and every time I go see Dr. Halverson, he says, yeah, I put that on my computer and I read it about once a month about the history of that school. So I figured, well, that's a good thing to get the history out there and have people aware of it. So I'm hoping that this commission will agree to dig a little bit into the history of the Arcade Plaza, because it really does represent a whole era of Ojai that kind of started back in the 1970s, 1960s really, and was the outgrowth and how the community came together and how we were talking about working with the school district, but during that time how the city worked with the business owners downtown to save the downtown, because basically all the stores were going out to the Y and the downtown was becoming blighted, and they wanted to improve the way that the businesses were laid out. And the city stepped in and they found a way to fund the Arcade Plaza, and they completely renovated the whole back and created more stores back there and more parking. So it really solved a lot of problems that Ojai was having with traffic, with city development. Before the Arcade Plaza, all the development downtown was just happening in this big strip along Ojai Avenue, and that was it. And the planners said, we got to start building north and south of Ojai Avenue. We've got to create more space there for the town to grow. And so at first they were talking about the school district property, converting that into more stores and shops, but they settled on the back of the arcade and creating a whole shopping area back there, and with all the parking to go with it. And I think it's really benefited Ojai. So anyway, I would like to see if we could maybe just develop at least an informal history, which I started and sent you part of that.
Can't hear you. Who's talking?
So we're, sorry, that's Gina. So are we all in agreement that we think this is an important endeavor? Yes? Does anybody want to be on the ad hoc with Craig?
I'm happy to work with Craig also. At his direction, not
Commissioner Neeson,
in any way I can help.
At your job, do you do reports? Do you?
Yes, but my area of expertise is archaeological resources, not necessarily historic. I don't really do a lot of built environment for my work. So it's archaeological sites, which can include built environment components, but don't always. So it's similar. The reports are similar, like the structure, but it's a little bit different.
Are you interested in maybe being the report part of it, like maybe helping us look more?
Yeah, I am interested. I'm curious about what the time requirement for that would be. So I'm still in school with my job. So I finish August 12th, but I have a little bit of a constraint on my time until then.
Okay.
All right. Well, I can communicate with you and you can do what you can.
Sure, yeah. That sounds good.
All right.
It'd be nice to just have it polished a little. Okay, so do we have that? It's going to be Craig and Brian working on that, and then
Do we need a vote on that or anything?
it says discussion again, so no?
No, you don't need to vote on it. You just need to agree on who's going to be on your ad hoc. Oh, and does everybody want to have an ad hoc? So I think is there anybody who does not want to do that? Silence. So is everyone okay with those three people being on the ad hoc?
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. So item number 10. Yes? Oh, hello. Do you have a
This may be a totally informal question or adherence to. I'm a piano player, not to toot my own horn. I was in the arcade area and near Chevron, and I found an Aerosonic piano. In years past, I had purchased one of those pianos. The piano had mysteriously disappeared and reappeared in the arcade plaza and at Chevron. I had spoke to law enforcement about owning the Aerosonic piano. It's an upright piano, and they told me to talk to city council and to go through the whole process with you guys. Sorry to be off subject, but you guys were talking about the arcade plaza, and so I just thought I would bring it up. My name is Alan Hoyt-Melhoff. Thank you.
So Alan, so this is the Historic Preservation Commission, and so the city council meets twice a month, and it's on a Tuesday.
Okay.
So if you want to check in at the front counter during business hours, we can tell you which meetings to go to or when it is, and then you can go during public comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to see where this Aerosonic piano would fit into the historical society in itself, because I am technically the owner of the piano, and it's mysteriously disappeared by one of the owners, and there's been several other pianos that I've owned in the past. I am a art collector and a musician and historian and stuff like that too, so I just didn't know who to bring it up with. I talked to law enforcement, and they said to talk to city council and city
Okay,
hall.
so city council, like I said, it's twice a month on a Tuesday, and if you come into the public counter during business hours 8 to 5, we can set you up.
Thank you, and
give you-
sorry for not exactly knowing how to state
That's okay.
my.
That's all right. You're in a public forum. It's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a staff report on this?
So this item is number 10,
Mm-hmm.
and it's fast tracking, discussion regarding fast tracking the process for landmarking for individual property owners interested in landmarking and also the Mills Act. This was requested by Chair McHatton to be put on the agenda, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Well, I know that this all started with the Treasures of Ojai people, and they came in and discussed with this, and then it became even more interesting to me after the recent fire, because if these individual buildings are landmarked, they also might, they have Mills Act there. If we can encourage, not force, which is nice because this is, something that they would come to us, if these individual properties within the State Historic District wants to individually landmark their properties and get Mills Act, they would have Mills Act funds for updating electrical, anything that is windows, anything that they would want to do, they would make a Mills Act contract. So this was something that the Treasures of Ojai people were really interested in, and they came forth. And so we talked about there's like 3 different ways to do this, and this was the one that we wanted to do. So the next thing is asking you is, once again, is it commissioner comments? Is it getting on to the city council agenda to ask them if we have their support? I've individually talked to just about all of them, and I haven't had any negative response to this, so hopefully that we'll have their support.
So I recall talking about this in the past, and yes, you want to go during commissioner comments or public comments, but I think commissioner comments is better, and see if you get their blessing. And then, is this something that has already been put on the wish list in the budget and blessed by them and in your budget? I mean, that's also when you would talk about it more specifically.
Yeah,
But if you want to talk about it now, then yes, you'd go to the council during commissioner comments.
Well, that's the budget is more, the city said that they don't get a whole lot from property taxes, where the Mills Act wouldn't make or break the city if we gave Mills that contract. So, and then the other part would be, it wouldn't cost the property owner to do an individual HRR on their property because they're already part of a state historic district. And so we had spoke with the attorney, one of you guys, not you, but about how we would do it. I spoke with the HRG who's doing our survey, and about maybe just copying the pages from the Caltrans document that created the State Historic District, updating it with any new information, having any information that we have on the property, a new photo, and the application. And so that is, it would be a low or no cost way for individual landmarking. And so then I guess the question is having the city waive costs that they would charge, or reducing the amount that they would charge to landmark a building.
So I think, again, parts of this have come up before, and it's discussed as opposed to being in writing with these facts that we would then send through our attorney's office.
Okay.
And see if we can, in fact, landmark something this way. And then as far as the funding part goes, we need to talk to council, or you need to talk to council. So I think everything that you just said has been said before, but you put it in writing, and let's see if we can make it happen.
Okay.
And they would,
I think the first step would be, again, putting it in writing and running it through me, through the attorney's office, to see if we can indeed landmark something. And then it'll go back to you to go to council.
Can it come through the HPC first? It seems like you're making plans
no,
that are
please.
jumping over the HPC.
No, never.
I don't know what you're talking about, so.
So Chair McCatton has brought a couple of times to the commission that there's this way of landmarking that's not the more conservative or traditional way, perhaps, by getting, by spending X amount of dollars on a historic resources report. We already have a district, we already have a page, we have photographs. So if there's this streamlined way of creating a landmark, I don't know the answer to that.
This would only be for contributing properties within the State Historic District.
Again,
Yeah,
I need you to present the facts.
okay.
And those facts need to go to the attorney's office to see, can the city of Ojai indeed landmark something this way, okay? So, of course, it sounds most appropriate. This is something that you guys need to talk about. I'm just letting the chair know that I can't answer the question presented this way, nor
Okay.
can I even answer the question. It has to go to the
yeah,
attorney's
I
office.
would think it would have to come to the
Yeah, I'm
commission
like,
first.
what? This is
Right.
going to the council?
No,
And I've
no, no,
never-
It's not going anywhere, it's not going anywhere, but I'm being asked if somebody can do the streamlined landmarking. I don't know. So please put it in writing so we can find out if it legally can even be done. If the commission wants it to come here before staff takes it to legal, fabulous.
Yeah, it would have to
But-
come here.
That's why
I'm
you're
just-
discussing this right now, but there's this cross-talking right here. So go ahead and talk about it as a commission. Do you even want to do it that way?
So, again, the guidance isn't just with the state, the guidance is with the city code.
I'm not even
so.
talking about either or. I'm talking, Chair McCatton is asking if something can have, if a particular property that is already in the state historic district, can it be city landmarked through some kind of streamlined process? I don't know the answer to that.
So this is something that I've been working on for 4 years, so,
No,
yeah, I
it's-
know all the nuances.
Okay,
on-
so
on
I
what we're- I'm
can't
just trying to understand
talk to Gina.
how,
Okay,
about
so-
the puzzle, because again, I'm hearing segments of
The,
what have
Your
been the
chair.
process.
the idea, you were here the night that the Treasures of Ojai people came.
I was not, I was at a funeral.
Okay, that's probably one of the problems, so I'm sorry.
Well,
So-
I only missed the one night.
Yeah.
It's the only night
like
I've ever
ever,
missed.
right?
12 years, yeah.
So, anyway, this was a conversation that started with you, with them.
Right, yeah, I know the
And-
treasures of Ojai
And then
people.
you told
Wonderful
me
people.
that, why don't you talk to them, because, now that you're chair. It's like,
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
so
yeah.
I had a couple of meetings with them. Lorraine came to one of them with me to find out what it is that they're looking for. And they have a lot of civic pride, a lot of pride in their building.
They do.
A lot of understanding of the history of Ojai, and they wanted to honor it more than just being part of the State Historic District, and they were interested in individual landmarking.
Perfect.
But they when they bought it, it's like they're paying one of the highest property taxes, and so the Mills Act for them would be very valuable.
Mhm.
There's a lot of weird things with their electrical, like they said there's a line that says ice cream and it goes into a wall and then it just stops, it's like weird things, telephone lines that just kind of end and go. And so they would love to be able to work on getting it back to its beauty and also safety. And so, especially now that, we're even understanding more with the recent fire, that we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can for the property owners who choose that they would also like to individually landmark. Not talking about, doesn't take away from a future local or doesn't take away from the state, but since they are already part of a state, that the state has acknowledged that they are eligible to be a contributing property. When I talked to the attorneys and I talked to HRG, they said that it would just be like a word change in our code to allow them to individually landmark. So they would be able to Mills Act and be able to have those funds to do repairs, to make it safer, to make it more beautiful. And so that is something that I need to write it up better and send it to Maura so she could come back with more information for us. But I just wanted to not let it fall off. And so, especially with what happened last month, or last month, I don't know when the fire was.
July 4th.
So I just wanted to make sure that no, it wasn't July 4th.
Wasn't it July 4th? Oh,
Yeah,
it's
but-
Father's Day, sorry.
Yeah, it was Father's Day.
That's what, I was trying to
Um,
figure out why all my family was home.
Yeah, they don't even have to be a landmark in order to make use of the Mills Act, because the Mills Act law says that if you are listed on the California Register, you're qualified.
So
Now, let me finish.
Okay.
The city code says that in order to qualify, you have to be individually listed on the state register, not just listed. The state says if you're just listed on it, but the city code says individually listed. So if the city would just get rid of the word individually listed and just say just in exactly what's allowed by the state, say any building that is listed on the California Register is qualified for the Mills Act, they don't even have to get it landmarked, they can just apply for the Mills Act.
right. So what happened?
Wow.
So what happened was we had those options, and one of the times we voted to go with the Treasures of Ojai people who really wanted to pick the option that had the landmarking because they have such pride in their building. They wanted a landmarking path that was cost-effective and a way to get Mills Act. What we were told was if we wanted to change the wording on the Mills Act to be like the state, that it was this body who can just ask for that change. If we wanted to change it to landmarking, then council would be the ones that would do a couple word change
They
in
would
there.
have to change it the other way too, because it says in the code individually listed on the state register, and they've got to get rid of that word individually, because just being listed on the California register is like what those buildings are. But to be individually listed, it's a whole other process that goes on where they have to actually appear before the state board, and the state board has to approve it. So it's more complicated, but the state law actually allows cities to just give Mills Act to people who are listed on the state
Right.
state register. So we could do both.
We
I
could,
think.
that's what I was just thinking, we could do both, because there are some people who,
don't care.
don't care about it, the individually landmarked, but there's other people who find that really important. They want the plaque, they want to have their building, they understand its history, and they want to
Right.
value that.
So we should do both. I don't see why we would.
So let me ask you a question. So you're talking about a Mills Act without them being landmarked?
Yes.
A Mills Act,
That basically is, the Mills Act builds upon landmark properties.
well, because they're part of the state historic district, the state allows
We're
Mills
not
Act.
the state. So again, you have
Well,
to go to the
city
council
code-
to.
the city code-
I know what the city code says.
It doesn't say you have to be a landmark. It says you either have to be a landmark or you have to be individually listed on the state
Exactly.
register. And what we're saying
And
is,
that's a hiccup.
right, we're saying get rid of the word individually.
I understand what you're doing.
Okay.
I don't agree with it. In
What,
case
you don't agree?
the fact that you're cutting out local, essentially local jurisdiction on moving ahead with something
They still
that's
have
going
to
to.
apply for the Mills Act. We still decide if they get the Mills Act. It's just who's qualified for it.
Yeah. Again, 3 hours and 5 minutes is.
Yes.
It's an agreement between the city and the property owner
It
regardless.
requires a change to the code.
Oh, right, but I just meant
Yes,
Yes.
it requires a change to the code. That was the whole reason that we worked on getting
But I think both,
a local downtown historic district.
yeah, both of them would require that code be changed. They'd have to get a change. Because right now, a landmark requires this whole process, and there would have to be something in the code that allowed it for buildings that were contributors.
Yeah,
Well,
but
we could-
I'm all for doing what we can to speed things up, but
For people, for property owners who want to be individually landmarked and possibly get Mills Act, that are contributing properties within the state historic district, that we're trying to find a path to not have them have to individually do a new HRR, since the state of California already acknowledges the fact that they are contributing so that's the information that I found out so far. So,
okay. I've been to council meetings where
So-
we've
so-
tried to nip it in the bud, and they're like,
but
why have you forced other entities prior to this to pay $10,000 to get a landmark, and now you're gonna give these people a pass?
Well, because they're part of a state historic district, and the state of California have acknowledged it. So we're not saying anyone else, because that's what we're talking about as far as our budget, as far as having funds to maybe help people who can't afford that. That's something separate, they're not part of the state district. But if they're part of the state district, and that Caltrans document that gave us our state district is already acknowledging that not only are they eligible for the state, but they're eligible for national, district, then we are then of course, individually, if they're contributing and they wanted to have a way to, and not everyone's gonna want to. And that's the good thing about this, is because we're not telling people you have to landmark, or we're gonna landmark you, or anything like that. It's, if they come to us and say, yeah, I see the benefit that Treasures of Ojai has this money that they have from the Mills Act, can we do that? I would like to make it a little harder, rather than just giving them Mills Act. I would like them to individually
We're
landmark.
not gonna just give them the Mills Act. They still have to apply, and we still have to allow it. So they have to come with a project that we agree with. It's not just, oh, here's some money.
Yeah, I mean, well, why don't we come to the, I'll write up all the information and I'll send it to Maura and we can find out what we can legally do and then we can talk about it more at the next meeting.
Yes,
So,
I
just-
agree. There's no downside to getting the information that
Right.
you're asking for. It's just, can this be done? There's no harm to getting it. We should just move on.
Yeah, okay, I will type something up for you. Okay? Yeah, all right, let's move to number 11. Pop-ups for historic preservation.
Oh,
Is that-
Gina, one quick comment.
Mhm.
So, we were talking about fast-track process for historic landmarking for interested in landmarking in Mills Act, and so I I thought maybe these two documents should be attached, since we're talking about landmarking in Mills Act and changing this or seeing where it's at,
Yes,
if we're gonna talk about this subject in the future.
okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yeah,
good,
so-
good idea. Okay, so number 11, do we
Give
have a
us
staff
starting
report?
point.
Or is it just a,
Number 11 was,
number 11, do we have a staff report on the pop-ups or is it just a discussion?
No, it's just to open it up for you to discuss. It was requested at the last meeting to have a discussion regarding pop-ups for the commission. And so
I-
I'll open that up to you.
Yeah, I know we have Ojai Day coming up. I wanted to look at others. I really haven't yet. I'm happy to just wait on this discussion since time constraints. We're all good? Can't bring it to a future meeting? Okay. And then the education update. There isn't as many things in the summertime, but there was a couple of interesting ones that I thought was very specific. And this was usually the California Preservation Foundation, they're very like historic preservation commission focused, but these were very specific, but they're all included in our things if anybody wanted to watch them. One of them was decarbonizing through reuse, preservation's role in the 2030 challenge and beyond. It's two different free webinars. Another one is preservation in print, playhouses and privileges, the architecture of elite childhood. They're so specific that they're not like normally where it's like, discussing historic districts or something. Another one was the Caldecott Tunnel virtual tour and panel discussion. There's so many. There's Saving Neon, how community advocacy keeps historic signs glowing. But these are all within the next couple of weeks. If any of them are something you're personally interested in, I suggest going on it, but there's not a lot of that are specific to the commission right now. There is that one that's at the end of October. It just happens to be on here, but we talked about maybe somehow getting out to the public. If it's a public participation matters, beginner's guide to local government meetings, it's really, really basic, but it's basically telling, like how to, the channels of what to go through and how to be most proactive in your community. And so I wanted to talk about that as well as the city of Ojai. If you go under the Historic Preservation Commission, if you go to the bottom, it says City of Ojai Historic Districts, and it lists Taramino. I know that we don't have a local district yet, but is there a way we can have a new section that just says, the California state resource and maybe a copy of her plaque or something? So we are now we have something else besides Taramino. We have the state district, and it's nowhere on the city site. So I was just wondering, maybe we can have a little blurb or plaque or something on the city site under our historic preservation, so.
The state plaque.
Hmm?
The state plaque.
Our state plaque. the
State
one that-
plaque.
Yeah, something so people know about it, because it looks like, it doesn't, and that's where we have our Mills Act, our historic landmark destination, list of all historic landmarks, the downtown walking tour, and then it has the Caltrans document, but it doesn't say what
Great.
happened.
Great question.
Okay, and so that's all I have on that. And then 13, we go to future agenda items. So from today, so this is something that I would like to ask our attorney. We would like at our next meeting, to have, oh, Brian, can you speak to it about who you spoke to and that wanted to come speak at our meeting?
You're talking about,
The fire chief
oh,
guy,
so,
Did
so, so what happened, I was, Father's Day, had all the family, we were there at Casa de Lago when the Oakview Fire engine went tearing by like I'd never seen it before. Kids left, wife said there's a fire in Ojai, I'm like, okay. And then she said it's in the arcade, I yelled at, said, get in the car. And ran up there, and it was, it was getting dark, parked and just walked over, looked through the windows. Firefighters, firefighters came out, looked like a captain, maybe 2 for 21, and I'd seen something that 21 was being congratulated for the different things, and, they just talked about that. And then the next day, I was going to go to 21 and thank them for what they did. No one was there. I ended up talking with Nick Creasy, who is the liaison for the Ventura County Fire Department. And I just thought that, you think you know something, and then you find out that there's, little things in the arcade that I wasn't aware of. They said they'd been fighting this for getting prepared for it for a year. It kind of makes you wonder, what did they know that we don't know? And, I talked with Laura, who's with the newspaper, and said, and Mark Tover, I talked to, and they said something about tunnels. I said, I have no idea what the tunnels are. She's like, what? You didn't read Drew's thing, and so, so Nick said, I said, I don't want to know anything about, all of those things. I just wonder if there's something that we should know, since, we're essentially the overseers with Nick. And he said, I'm available if you'd like me to talk. I've since talked to Jenny Prebor, who owns one of the businesses. She's talked about some of the issues that they're looking at. The word tunnels was mentioned. I don't know what that is. I haven't really done any research since then. But I just thought it might be informative to us to understand more what's in there. The attic, the breezeways, different things. So I didn't know if that would have a value to us, but I thought I would talk to Nick just in case, and then leave it up to, the chair and staff to
So,
determine.
we, I guess it was year before last, whenever the Palisades and the fires that happened, all of our classes that we take are our yearly retreat, where they have everything, the change focus to be fire safety in historic buildings. And so many of the things that we started learning about was how to protect our resources here in Ojai. And so this seems to always be something that is within our purview to stay in our lane, but learn about our historic buildings, fire safety, our downtown, tunnels, attic, all these things. And if we have a fire person who wants to come and speak, I don't see a problem with that, and our liaison and council didn't see a problem with that. I just wanted to ask you, do you see that? I mean, obviously we don't want to get involved in any investigation, but we want to learn how to protect our buildings and to be the best stewards we can over what we do here.
The fire captain was very appreciative that someone from Historic Preservation Commission had shown up. He also has two daughters. He lives in Newbury Park that have been bugging him to go to the Ojai Valley Museum, so I talked that up too. But, it's just an exchange because we happen to be there. And then I
So-
haven't talked to anybody since.
So can we have that presentation
Well, you
next
and I
month
talked
if he's
because you're
willing to
the
do
vice
that?
chair.
Yeah,
Well,
that would be fine.
Okay, thank you. Did fine. Okay, well, thank you so much. And so we want to do that, and does anybody have anything else for the future agenda items?
I,
Wanted to mention that I wrote
Speaker.
You're,
I wrote to Lucas and Mara, and they assured me that they had sent to all the people who suffered damage that they are eligible to use the State Historic Building Code when they're renovating, fixing their place up again. So I think that might be helpful to them, because sometimes when a building is damaged, they may, the code may just have a blanket requirement that isn't really necessary, but it's just something that's done to bring things up to the local code, whether it's the fire code or the building code. And they are eligible to look at the State Historic Building Code in order to protect the historic character of the buildings.
does anybody have anything that wants to go on a future agenda?
Well, as a commission, perhaps it would be an idea to have some sort of a seminar or something with these owners and the fire department. If they know a lot of what's wrong, maybe the owners would be willing to make some of the repairs necessary, since we've now had a major fire, and use the state historic code to bring them up to code. But if they don't even know their problems, which the fire department obviously does, then, I'm just, as a body of historic preservation.
It's such a strange set of buildings there, where they're so interdependent upon each other, making good decisions and being safe, because, and so the more information that everybody has
To bring them together
Yeah.
to talk about fire. If you lose half that arcade to a fire, you're gonna lose a lot of business to this town. It's gonna destroy
Of
it,
course.
a lot of tourists.
Yeah, so again, I was talking with Jenny Prebor. She's worked at the museum for a while, and she's a former HBC member. And she said that they're talking, they're looking at their wiring, they're looking at the insurance, we had a home fire in 2001, so it's a long, never-ending trip, so. But, it's what people decide to do.
Can we start by having the presentation so we get the knowledge next meeting? Can you reach out to him again and see if he would be willing to come to our
Yeah,
August meeting?
Yeah, well, I'll
then
talk
work
to
with
Nick,
Maura on that.
and then, put him in contact with whoever wants to talk to him directly, so I won't be involved.
Okay, anybody else have
The
anything?
other thing, on Ojai Day, we are getting close.
Shh.
And I'm wondering if I should reach out to the Ventura County Ghost Hunter and ask him if he wants to come back, Richard Sennett.
Everyone really seems to enjoy that.
Is that a yes? I mean,
Fine with me.
we now have two ghost hunters that have confirmed which cell the ghost is in, just letting you know.
And families love that so much. It's really exciting to see how excited they get about that.
They love having their kids find out what the slammer is. And I always ask the parents' permission before. So, yeah, it's fun.
Okay, I think we're done. Yes? Do you have another public comment?
It may be off base or out of touch with reality, Your Honor, but I would say there's a vast infestation of bugs and spiders in the Ojai Valley, and I think it has to do with the oak trees and the palm trees. So I just wanted to bring that up, that could be put on a future agenda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, From here? Now? Oh. Okay. Do we have anything else? Do we have any other upcoming things you want to let us know about, Maura? Are we ready to leave? Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, have a good night.